Chapter 22:20. Skybolt Pig also understood spiritual beasts like the fire lion very well. They were very clear about gratitude and grudges. If there was a grudge, they would definitely repay it. Therefore, when he found the big flame lion and the fire cub who were about to return to their nest, he told them about Lin Yi's situation with exaggerated details. The big flame lion was instantly furious. This was because Skybolt Pig told him that someone else had discovered that Lin Yi had secretly helped the fire cub, so he was being retaliated against. How could this be? When the big flame lion heard that his benefactor was being retaliated against because of his child, he hurried over to help. Who cared if the other party was still a member of the Tagan family? He would rather offend them than not save Lin Yi. Therefore, the big flame lion, the anxious fire cub, and the proud Skybolt Pig quickly rushed to the scene of the incident. Just when everyone was wondering why the big flame lion had returned, the fifth guardian felt a sudden gust of wind behind him, followed by a tearing pain. He saw with his own eyes that everything below his waist had been torn apart by the big flame lion's claws. This was the last scene he saw in this world. He didn't even know how he died. He didn't understand why the big flame lion had returned and suddenly attacked him. Of all things, it was him. This dramatic scene stunned everyone present, especially Tagan Long. He was still immersed in the pleasure of the fifth guardian torturing Lin Yi. The next moment, he fell into deep fear. Although he had hidden his strength, he was no match for the big flame lion. Seeing the big flame lion's ruthless attack, Tagan Long knew that he would be courting death if he went up. However, he couldn't figure out why the big flame lion had returned. Didn't it leave? Could it be that after it returned, it got angrier and angrier, so it came back for revenge? Thinking of this, Tagan Long's face turned ashen. Hero Lion I'm just here to watch the show. This has nothing to do with me. I'll leave immediately. I didn't attack your son just now. The big flame lion ignored Tagan Long for the time being. Instead, it quickly went to Lin Yi's side with the fire cub and Skybolt Pig. The fire cub looked sadly at Lin Yi, who was lying motionless on the ground. It stuck out its tongue, licked his forehead and shed sad tears. The little fire lion thought that Lin Yi was dead, so it was naturally very sad. After all, in its opinion, Lin Yi had died to save it, which meant that it had killed Lin Yi. The fire lion was clear about gratitude and grudges. How could it be happy to see its benefactor die because of it? However, Skybolt Pig knew Lin Yi better. He carefully checked Lin Yi's situation and found that Lin Yi was still breathing and was not dead. He immediately explained to the big fire lion and the little fire lion happily. GG, the Sky Thunder Pig was telling the great fire lion and the little fire lion that Lin Yi had the magical ability to heal himself. As long as Lin Yi was still alive, it would not matter. The great fire lion and the little fire lion were very surprised after hearing Skybolt Pig's explanation. However, when they thought of the little fire lion saying that Lin Yi could heal it quickly, the great fire lion no longer doubted Skybolt Pig's words and heaved a sigh of relief. Now that Lin Yi was fine, the top priority was to let Lin Yi recuperate in peace. Since Tagan Long did not make a move, they would let him go for now. It was just one of the fifth protectors. The Tagan family would not care too much about it. Therefore, the great fire lion gave up on the idea of making Tagan Long pay with his life. He was very smart. If he killed Tagan Long now, the Tagan family would definitely go berserk. Not only would he be in trouble, but Lin Yi would also be in trouble. When Tagan Long saw the great fire lion and the little fire lion's attitude towards Lin Yi, he felt a little strange. Why did they look so affectionate? Could it be that they came back this time to specially help Lin Yi? The more Tagan Long thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. The little fire lion was previously surrounded by Lin Yi, so why did it still help Lin Yi? However, although Tagan Long appeared to be an idiot, lecherous, and arrogant, he was actually not stupid. He understood the fire lion's character. It knew how to repay kindness and distinguish between gratitude and grudges. Since that was the case, it meant that Lin Yi had helped the fire lion, so they came back to repay him. Help? Yes. Thinking back to the time when the little fire lion seemed to be on the verge of collapse, it would run in front of Lin Yi and fight with Lin Yi. Then, it would be full of vigor again. This must be something that Lin Yi had secretly done. Lin Yi had suppressed his strength to come up the mountain to carry out the mission. There was obviously a problem. How could he, a mid-earth rank expert, risk his life for a spirit gathering pill? He would not care about those 5 spirit gathering pills. Thinking back to how the great fire lion had pretended to teach Lin Yi a lesson, everyone else had died except for Lin Yi. If that wasn't a problem, then what was it? It seemed that Lin Yi was a spy and had secretly helped the little fire lion. After figuring this out, Taganlong looked at Lin Yi with hatred. While the great fire lion, little fire lion, and Skybolt Pig's attention was on Lin Yi, he prepared to escape. He even dragged Sun Jingyi with him. However, just as Taganlong was about to grab Sun Jingyi, Skybolt Pig cried out in alarm. Roar! The great fire lion roared at Taganlong and pounced over. Taganlong and Razi were scared out of their wits. The two of them could not be bothered with Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi anymore. They ran down the mountain in panic. At this time, Sun Jingyi had also recovered from the shock. She did not expect Skybolt Pig to be so fierce that he had called the little fire lion and the little fire lion over. As a result, the 5 guardians were directly met with tragedy. Skybolt Pig, little fire lion, thank you so much. Sun Jingyi breathed a sigh of relief. She could also see that although Lin Yi was badly injured, he was not dead. As long as Lin Yi was not dead, there would be no problem. As for Lin Yi's healing ability, Sun Jingyi was very clear. GG. Skybolt Pig nodded proudly. However, it indicated that this was what he should do. As for the little fire lion and the little fire lion, they smiled honestly and apologetically. They did not feel that they had helped Lin Yi. In their eyes, it was the little fire lion that harmed Lin Yi and suffered the revenge of Taganlong. Let's leave this place first and find a safe place to heal. Skybolt Pig wrote on the ground with his claws. However, after he finished writing, he wiped it clean after Sun Jingyi finished reading it, leaving no evidence. The great fire lion used its claws to gently lift Lin Yi on its back. Then, the little fire lion led the way in front. The great fire lion carried Lin Yi in the middle, while Sun Jingyi and Skybolt Pig followed behind. They walked towards the middle of the mountain range together. The middle of the mountain range was the territory of the Fire Lion clan. The little fire lion directly led the way to their home. Chapter 22-21. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. After placing Lin Yi on a safe, soft straw cushion, Lin Yi was able to speak. He had been recuperating on the back of the great fire lion along the way, so his injuries were already half healed. Thank you very much, Lin Yi said gratefully. If not for the sudden appearance of the great and small fire lions, Lin Yi really didn't know what to do. The conflict this time was really a bit risky. However, it wasn't that Lin Yi couldn't hold it in. The essence energy core of the spirit beast was just a fuse. Judging from Tagan Dragon's attitude towards Sun Jingyi, the conflict between the two would happen sooner or later. It was better to take the risk now than wait for Tagan Dragon to go back and find a more powerful expert to deal with it. No need to thank me. You are the benefactor of my Fire Lion clan. You saved the little Fire Lion, but because of that, you were attacked by the Tagan family. Our Fire Lion clan owes you. The great Fire Lion spoke, but what shocked Lin Yi was that it could actually speak the human language. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was shocked beyond belief. Jingyi and Skybolt Pig, on the other hand, had their eyes wide with disbelief. It was already amazing that the Skybolt Pig could communicate by writing, but they didn't expect the great Fire Lion to be able to speak the human language. It was even more surreal. It's not strange that some of the ancient spirit beasts that have entered the heaven rank can speak the human language with good aptitude. The great Fire Lion saw the surprised expressions of Lin Yi and the others, shook its head and explained, "The little guy beside you is also very powerful. When it reaches the heaven rank, it should be able to speak the human language." Lin Yi listened to the great Fire Lion's explanation and came to a sudden realization. He didn't expect the great Fire Lion to be a heaven rank spirit beast. Lin Yi had neglected it before. You are a heaven rank spirit beast? Doesn't that mean you can compete with a heaven rank master? Lin Yi looked at the great Fire Lion in surprise. You can't say that. Although spirit beasts are superior to human cultivators to a certain extent, their advantage will become smaller and smaller as their ranks increase. The big Fire Lion explained. For example, we attack-type spirit beasts can contend with heaven rank initial phase experts at yellow rank, but when we reach heaven rank initial phase, we can only contend with heaven rank late phase experts. If we are both at heaven rank peak late phase, it's hard to say who will win. There's such a saying? Lin Yi was surprised. Naturally, this is similar to your human external and internal cultivators. Before reaching the peak of heaven rank late phase, internal cultivators always have the advantage and are always ahead of external cultivators of the same rank. But once they reach the peak of heaven rank late phase, many external cultivators have the advantage. The Great Fire Lion nodded and continued to explain. For example, external martial arts such as Iron Fist and Golden Bell cover, if cultivated to peak late heaven rank, it can be said that no internal expert at peak late heaven rank can match up to the practitioner of Golden Bell cover, because no one can kill him. That's amazing. Lin Yi was surprised. He did not expect that the Golden Bell sect had the potential to aspire to the top of the martial world. Of course, external cultivators are more difficult to level up the further they go. The Great Fire Lion said, "In the 1,000 years that I have lived, I know of only 2 people who have cultivated external martial arts to the extreme. They appeared in Jianghu more than 10 years ago. One attacked and one defended, and they cooperated well. These 2 people can be said to be invincible in the world. They had cultivated 2 external martial arts to the extreme. One should be similar to the Iron Fist, with infinite strength and invincible strength. The other should be similar to the Golden Bell shield and the Iron Shirt, with a body as hard as steel, impervious to fire and water. I'm afraid that only the legendary Heavenly Tao realm experts can shake these 2 people." Heavenly Tao. Lin Yi took a deep breath when he heard this term. He had more or less heard this term before, but he did not have a clear answer. Legend has it that the level above heaven rank is called Heavenly Tao. Human cultivators are like this, and so are we spirit beast cultivators. But to reach this level, no one has seen it with their own eyes. It's just a legend. The Great Fire Lion said. Then, what about these 2 people? Lin Yi asked curiously. He did not expect that there would be such powerful external experts in this world. They disappeared, along with a large number of experts at peak late heaven rank from various sects. The Great Fire Lion said, "Since then, the rules of Jianghu have changed a lot, but these people are gone forever." A large number of experts at peak late heaven rank? Lin Yi frowned, thinking of his missing master and Rock Candy's master. Could it be that they were part of the group that disappeared together? And his own master was also one of the experts at peak late heaven rank? What exactly was going on with all these things? But regarding his master's disappearance, old Lin must know some secrets from back then, but he did not mention it. He only told him that it was not the right time to know too much. And Lin Yi also knew that if old Lin did not want to say something, he would not be able to get it out of him. And he was not old Lin's opponent at all. This old man was very strange. It was as if he was strong, but he was also strong. No matter how much he cultivated, he would not be able to withstand one punch from this old man. One punch could directly blow him off the West Star Mountain. Now that he thought about it, he was already a mid-earth rank. Would he be a match for the old man? Lin Yi shook his head. The old man and his Shifu were really mysterious people. This is just a secret of Jianghu. It's just that the Wulonghout mountain range that I live in used to be the location of an ancient sect, so I know more about it. Actually, I don't know the specifics. Where they went, what they did, I know that too. The Great Fire Lion said, "At least I haven't heard anyone mention it again." All right. Lin Yi nodded, but suddenly thought of something very important. You said that the upper mountain range used to be an ancient sect? Yes, but not anymore. The Great Fire Lion said. What kind of ancient sect was it? Lin Yi asked. Chapter 22:22. All right, if that's the case, I won't ask any more questions. Lin Yi nodded. He had also seen through the Fire Lion's character, and knew that it was useless to ask any more questions. However, Lin Yi was curious. Could Sun Jingyi's parents have something to do with that ancient sect? Or could it be that they had entrusted something to the ancient sect and preserved it? If it was the second possibility, it would be a little difficult. If the ancient sect was gone, then the things that were preserved would naturally be lost. Even if they found it, would there still be anything left? Seeing Lin Yi frown, the Great Fire Lion was a little curious. Could it be that you have something to do with the ancient sect here? Not really. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and shrugged. He didn't hide anything and told them about how he had accompanied Sun Jingyi to find his parents' belongings. When they arrived at the Wulonghout mountain range, they were completely clueless. Although they had a map, it only had a rough outline of the entire mountain range. The rest was a detailed map of a specific location. It was extremely difficult for Lin Yi to find the specific location of the entire mountain range. Although he had a treasure-seeking tool like the Skybolt Pig, the Skybolt Pig could only search for treasures. It didn't have the ability to find a map. You came here to find something? The Great Fire Lion was slightly taken aback. Then, can I take a look at the map in your hands? Of course. With the Great Fire Lion's willingness to help, Lin Yi was naturally happy. Moreover, he had no conflict of interest with the Great Fire Lion at all. He was still the Great Fire Lion's benefactor. After taking out the map, Lin Yi spread it out in front of the Great Fire Lion. The Great Fire Lion bent down and looked at it carefully. The little Fire Lion and the Lioness also looked at the map curiously. Based on the shape of the mountain range on this map, this is indeed the Wulong Haut mountain range. The Great Fire Lion had been cultivating here for 1,000 years, so with one look at the map, he knew without a doubt that it was the Wulong Haut mountain range. However, knowing that it was the Wulong Haut mountain range was useless. When it saw the approximate location marked on the mountain range, the Great Fire Lion shook its head. According to the location on the map, this place belongs to the upper range of the Wulong Haut mountain range. We are now in the middle of the mountain range. Furthermore, I've never seen the terrain on this map before. As for the terrain of the middle and lower ranges of the mountain range, even if I can't say that I know them like the back of my hand, I'm very familiar with them. Therefore, I can confirm that this is not the middle and lower ranges. Upper Vein. You've never been there? Lin Yi was a little surprised. No. The Great Fire Lion shook his head. We, the Fire Lion Spiritual Beast Clan, have an agreement with the ancient sect. We won't go to their territory. But, didn't that sect already disappear? Moreover, according to the rumors, there are also ancient spirit beasts in the upper bloodline. Lin Yi said. It's true that that sect disappeared. However, there are still people active up there, and they are human heaven rank experts. The Great Fire Lion said. The rumors in the outside world are not accurate. It's true that I have an agreement with the ancient sect, but now that they have disappeared, there are still some heaven rank experts up there. Therefore, in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, we have no intention of going up there. Everyone mind their own business. It's not that our Fire Lion clan is afraid, but because our Fire Lion clan has sworn enemies in the middle bloodline. Sworn enemies. Lin Yi was slightly stunned. It's the spiritual beasts of another clan. The other party also has heaven-rank spiritual beasts. Although their combat power is weaker than ours, they have more clansmen. The Great Fire Lion gave a simple explanation, clearly not wanting to talk about these things. As the saying goes, a mountain cannot accommodate two tigers. The annual production of cultivation resources and heavenly treasures in the middle of the mountain range is limited, so there will naturally be conflicts and competition. I see. Since the Great Fire Lion didn't want to say more, Lin Yi didn't ask. Spiritual beasts had their own rules of survival, and Lin Yi wouldn't interfere with their fights. If the place you are looking for is in the lower bloodline or the middle bloodline, I can protect you. But in the upper bloodline, I can't help you. The Great Fire Lion said. However, I advise you to be careful. Although heaven stage experts don't appear there all the time, there will always be a few days in a year when a few heaven stage experts go there for a stroll. Benefactor, your strength is not enough to fight against them. Although the Great Fire Lion's words were a bit rude, Lin Yi also knew that good advice was harsh to the ear. He wasn't even a match for the fifth guardian, who was at the peak of earth rank, let alone a heaven rank expert. Of course I know that. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Of course it might not be that coincidental. Seeing Lin Yi's bitter face, the Great Fire Lion smiled. At least, heaven rank experts aren't always around. Also, if you can't beat them, then run. As long as you run to me, I can still protect you. There are some restrictions near my cave. Even if 10 heaven rank experts come, they won't be able to get away with it. But the premise is that you have to successfully run back. Lin Yi nodded. These ancient spiritual beasts more or less had some great magical powers. Lin Yi didn't know what this restriction was or how it was made, but the Great Fire Lion spoke so confidently that it wasn't simple. My internal injuries haven't healed yet, so I can only borrow your place to heal for the time being. Lin Yi said. Of course, that's no problem. Benefactor, you can stay here for a long time. The Great Fire Lion said. The spiritual energy in the middle and upper veins is about the same, and there are special restrictions in my cave that can make it easier to absorb spiritual energy. You can cultivate here for a while. There's no need to cultivate. I'll leave once my injuries are healed. Lin Yi didn't care about the spiritual energy. With the space in the jade pendant, why would he need it? It could be said that Lin Yi had as much spiritual energy as he wanted. He didn't have to worry about it at all. All right. The Great Fire Lion didn't try to persuade Lin Yi anymore. I'll protect you. Don't worry, in my cave, no one or spirit beast will dare to come in. Lin Yi nodded and entered the space in the jade pendant to start healing. He had released compressed true qi twice before, so the true qi in his body had decreased quite a bit, so it was time to replenish it. Chapter 22-23. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios' Tagan family's relay station was located at the bottom of the Wulong Haut mountain range. The scattered pharmacists, small families, and gangs that went up the mountain to pick herbs had to pay a hefty commission before they could go up the mountain. Of course, you could also go up the mountain from other unguarded places, but there was only one way up the mountain. The other places were covered in dense forests, poisonous insects, and poisonous weeds. There was also the possibility of encountering ferocious beasts. Many of these small families and gangs that came to pick herbs weren't cultivators. Even if they were, their strength was relatively low, so it was better to spend some money to be at ease. Seeing young Master Tagan Long stumbling down the mountain with Razi, the Tagan family's protector 3, who was in charge of receiving them, immediately greeted them. Young Master Tagan Long, what happened? Why are you so flustered? I'm so angry, Tagan Long wailed. But after shouting twice, he lowered his voice and said to the protector 3, we'll talk when we get back. Other than the Tagan family's men, there were also the Lu family and Shangguan family's men nearby. There were also people from the Fire Wolf gang and Red Conch family. Hence, Tagan Long still acted very brainlessly and made a big fuss, making people think that he was a useless playboy. However, the protector 3 was a core member of the core family. He was Tagan Long's uncle and naturally knew about Tagan Long's matters. Hence, he immediately understood Tagan Long's hint. Together with the yelling Tagan Long, they quickly boarded the Hummer that they came from and returned to the Tagan family. In the Tagan family's secret chamber, the family's patriarch, the Great Protector, the Second Protector, the Third Protector, and Tagan Long were sitting around a round table. These 5 people were the current core members of the Tagan family. The Tagan family's patriarch was currently Tagan Long's grandfather, Tagango. The Second Protector was Tagango's eldest son, Xianxia, who was also Tagan Long's father. The Third Protector was Tagango's youngest son, who was also Tagan Long's uncle, Taganmo. Actually, the Tagan family's protector was like the elders of other families and sections. It was just that in the families of Ruilida town, they were usually called protectors. As for the Great Guardian, he wasn't a member of the Tagan family, but he was also a heaven rank expert of the Tagan family. Of course, he was not the only heaven stage expert in the Tagan family. Tagan Gao's father was also a heaven stage expert. Moreover, his strength was even higher than the head protector. It was just that he was in closed-door training all year round. However, whether it was the clan leader, Tagango, the second and third protectors, Tagan Long, or even Tagango's father, Ancestor Tagan, they all followed the Great Protector's lead. It wasn't because of the Great Protector's strength, he was only at the early stage of the heaven realm. Moreover, he wasn't a core member of the Tagan family. He could only be considered a distant relative of the Tagan family, one that wasn't related by blood. However, his position in the Tagan family was transcendent. The reason was very simple, he came from an extremely mysterious place. If the Great Protector was the number 1 figure of the Tagan family, then Tagan Long would be the number 2 figure of the Tagan family. This was because he was someone the Great Protector had high hopes for. Tagan Long didn't hide anything and told everyone what had happened after he ascended the mountain. At this moment, Tagan Long was no longer the brainless wastrel he had been before. He spoke in a very organized manner. Hearing that the capture of the Fire Lion had failed, the Great Protector didn't care much. He waved his hand and said, "It's a failure as long as the person is fine." The Great Protector didn't have much of a reaction on the surface, but he let out a sigh of relief in his heart. If he had known that it would be so dangerous, he definitely wouldn't have let Tagan Long take the risk to capture the spirit beast. If it wasn't for the fact that the Fire Lion was very sensitive to his aura, and that his appearance would have alerted the Fire Lion, the Great Protector would have definitely accompanied Tagan Long up the mountain. As you said, it was that Zhang Naipeo who caused trouble. This person needs to be thoroughly investigated. Who is he and what is he doing here? The Great Protector didn't say much about the failure of the capture of the Fire Lion. Instead, he turned his attention to Lin Yi. Right, there's something important I need to report to the head protector. Taganlong said seriously, remembering Sun Jingyi all of a sudden. Oh, what is it? The Great Protector asked. The Great Protector showed us 2 pictures and asked us to search for these 2 people. Taganlong said. Oh, that's right. The Great Protector nodded. He did take out 2 pictures and asked the Tagan family to search for them, but they didn't find them in the end. He didn't expect Taganlong to bring it up again. Great Protector, the woman in the picture is a beauty. That's why my memory is very good. The woman beside Zhang Naipeo looks very similar to the woman in the picture. Taganlong said, so I've been trying to get close to her, wanting to trick her back for the Great Protector to check. After that, because of a conflict, I wanted to forcefully kidnap her, but the Fire Lion ruined everything. What? Are you sure? The woman beside Zhang Naipeo is the woman in the picture? The Great Protector's eyes lit up as he asked quickly. Shouldn't be wrong. But, the picture is dead, and the person is alive. It's just that they look similar. I can't guarantee that I'm 100% sure, Taganlong said after some thought. That woman, how old is she? The Great Protector asked. Around 20, shouldn't be too old. Taganlong said. Around 20? Are you sure? The Great Protector was a little confused after hearing Taganlong's words. That should be the case. She and Naipeo both look really young, around 20, Taganlong said with certainty after some thought. That can't be right. The Great Protector shook his head. If it was that person, he'd be at least 40, almost 50. How could he be in his 20s? 40. 50? That's impossible. Unless she used some medicine to rejuvenate her youth, I wouldn't be that old. Taganlong was very sure of Sun Jingyi's age. Rejuvenation. The Great Protector shook his head and asked, what does that Zhang Naipeo man look like, compared to the man in the picture? Chapter 22-24. That's it. The head protector said, they shouldn't be the same person, but perhaps they are related to the 2 people I'm looking for. Otherwise, why would they appear in the Wulong Heot mountain range so coincidentally? Why would they suppress their strength to participate in this mission to capture the Fire Lion? Even if these 2 people aren't those 2 people, they should be related to them. The head protector had stayed in the Tagan family all these years for 2 important missions. One was to protect and teach Taganlong martial arts. When the time was right, there would be a huge mission for him to do. The other mission was to monitor the Wulong Heot mountain range and monitor the 2 people in the photo. These 2 people were lucky enough to escape from the encirclement. Although the chances of their survival were very small, it didn't mean that they were dead without seeing their corpses. Moreover, the place behind the Great Protector did not wish for these 2 people to die. This was because their motive for exterminating the sect was to plunder a precious treasure from this ancient sect. However, this precious treasure was hidden away. They had swept through the entire sect, but they had not found it. Thus, the head protector stayed here to keep an eye on the 2 of them. If they didn't die, they would definitely return to search for the precious treasure. At that time, the head protector would be able to seize the precious treasure and kill the 2 of them. And now, the head protector saw hope. Taganlong's information was very useful. If this person was really related to the 2 people from back then, he must have come to the Wulong Heot mountain range for that treasure. Then the head protector could take advantage of them finding the treasure to make a move. Head protector, these 2 people, are we just going to let them go? They still have the inner elixir of 2 spirit beasts. Taganlong said. Naturally, we won't let them go. However, you don't have to worry about this matter. I'll handle it myself. The head protector said, don't go out for a while. Stay at home and practice. With your image of a playboy, you can go out for a walk every once in a while. As long as you don't let others notice you, it'll be fine. Yes, Taganlong hurriedly said. He was very happy. If the Great Protector personally took action, then all the problems would be easily solved. The clan meeting ended very quickly. To put it bluntly, the reason why the Tagan clan was able to rise so quickly in Ruele town wasn't because of the clan itself, nor was it because Ancestor Tagan was a heaven stage expert. In the Lu clan and the Shangguan clan, There were also heaven stage experts keeping watch. The reason why the Tagan clan was able to become the head of the three great clans was because of the Great Guardian. Furthermore, the entire family served the head protector and Taganlong. As the patriarch, Taganlong's authority was actually very small. To outsiders, he might look impressive on the surface, but when he returned home, his son Taganlong's authority in the family meetings was actually lower. The clan meetings were completely presided over by the head protector. The reason why the Tagan clan was favored by the head protector and the power behind him was that they had accidentally discovered Taganlong's special physique. This physique was just right for them to do something big. However, Taganlong didn't know the specifics. Even Taganlong himself didn't know. The only thing Taganlong knew was that once this matter was done, Taganlong's status would be even higher than the head protector's. His martial arts would also reach the peak, and the Tagan clan would become a first-rate clan. Of course, this was under the premise that the matter was done. If it couldn't be done, then these promises would just be empty words on a piece of paper. Moreover, that matter was extremely secretive, and Taganlong's identity could not be exposed in advance to prevent any accidents. Hence, under the suggestion of the head protector, Taganlong had thought of a good way to make Taganlong a foppish young master to deceive others. If Taganlong kept hiding in the clan and didn't show himself, it would definitely arouse the suspicions of the other powers in the town. Instead of that, it was better to let him show himself in public. Everyone knew that he was a playboy, but no one would think that he had another special identity. This was also the so-called Great Seclusion in the city. The Great Protector had disappeared after the meeting ended. However, the Tagan clan had played down this matter very much. They hadn't mentioned the whereabouts of the Great Protector. The failure to capture the Fire Lion had also been deliberately exaggerated by the Tagan clan, causing rumors to spread in the small town. The rumor seemed to be both true and false. During the encirclement of the spirit beasts, all the mistakes were blamed on Tagan Dragon. The 5 protectors, 8 protectors, and 4 adventurers had all sacrificed their lives to protect Tagan Dragon. Hence, mocking laughter came from the other clans. This young master Taganlong was really incompetent. Forget about being a playboy, he was actually such an idiot? Forget about the 4 adventurers, the 5 protectors and 8 protectors were the backbone of the Tagan clan. It was such a pity that they died. The news of Taganlong being grounded by Tagan Gao also spread, further confirming the previous rumors. This playboy young master had caused trouble. When Lin Yi opened his eyes again, the sky was already dark. Sun Jingyi, the skybolt pig, and the big and small fire lions surrounded Lin Yi. The lioness had brought a lot of food. Although they were all wild fruits, they were all top-notch fruits with heaven and earth spiritual energy. Consuming them was beneficial to cultivation. Mr. Lin, you're the most amazing person I've ever seen. The great fire lion looked at Lin Yi, who had recovered and returned to his peak state, and was very surprised. In such a short period of time, your injuries have completely recovered, and your energy has also returned to its peak. Hehe. Lin Yi smiled. Thank you for taking care of me while I was recuperating. It's nothing. It's what I should do. The great fire lion said. You should be hungry. Eat something. There are some exotic treasures here. After consuming them, you can quickly recover your strength, and it's also very beneficial to cultivation. Jingyi, you eat. I won't eat. Lin Yi had just recovered his strength, so he was not hungry at all. And then I won't stand on ceremony. Sun Jingyi had been hungry for a long time, but since Lin Yi had not recovered, she did not eat alone. Hearing Lin Yi say so, she naturally would not stand on ceremony anymore. Mr. Lin, you're not eating? The great fire lion was a little puzzled. My strength has already recovered to its peak. Do I still need to eat? Lin Yi smiled. Chapter 22-25. I understand. Lin Yi smiled. Thank you. However, in order to repay you, I have a manual of your human's martial arts. It was left behind by my contracted master. The great fire lion looked a little lonely. Your master? You were someone's contracted spiritual beast? Lin Yi's eyes widened. A few hundred years ago, yes. The great fire lion said, but he left to pursue a higher realm, which is the so-called heavenly Tao. Then he never came back. He was the former leader of an ancient sect here. Ah! Lin Yi sighed in amazement. Everyone wanted to pursue a higher level of martial arts, but how many of them actually succeeded in doing so? This martial art was once the sect's signature martial art. It was one of the best martial arts techniques for fire attribute cultivators. The Great Fire Lion said, "You're a mid-earth class master, so you should be able to practice up to the 5th form of this technique. As long as you practice up to the 5th form of this technique, you'll be able to activate the fiery bullet at the same time you use this technique. This will temporarily increase the power of your technique to the 10th form." Inferno bullet? What's that? Lin Yi had never heard of such a thing. It's a fire attribute attack weapon made from the breath of the Fire Lion clan. It's a one-time use weapon. The Great Fire Lion said, "In this mountain range, our Fire Lion clan also has enemies. I don't have any, but the little Fire Lion and my spouse don't have any powerful attack power. They can only rely on the flaming god bombs I made to escape the enemy's attack." "I see." Lin Yi nodded. "It takes me a long time to make this Inferno bullet. Plus, it's a consumable, so I only have 3 finished products. You'd better use it sparingly." The Great Fire Lion said, "After using the fireball, the 5th move of the martial arts technique is equal to the 10th move, and the 10th move is equal to the 15th move, and so on. There is no upper limit, but the lower limit is the 5th move. Only when it is activated together with the 5th move of the martial arts technique can it achieve the effect of the 10th move of the martial arts technique. Otherwise, this fireball cannot be used before the 5th move." "So powerful?" Lin Yi listened to the Great Fire Lion's explanation and couldn't help but click his tongue in amazement. This Firestream God bullet could increase a martial skills level by 5 at once. That was equivalent to being able to fight against people of a higher level. That's right. However, the number of Stream Divine Fireballs is too low. Additionally, we need to keep 2 for ourselves in case of emergencies. Thus, we can only give you 3, Benefactor," said the Big Fire Lion with a slightly regretful tone. 3 is already quite a lot. Lin Yi wasn't a greedy person. He was already very lucky to have 3 of these magical items. If he had them before, he wouldn't have been in such a difficult situation when he fought against the 5 protectors. He just didn't know if that martial skill was easy to cultivate or not. As for what kind of martial skill it was, Lin Yi wasn't too worried. After all, Lin Yi had the experience of learning the Frenzy Fist and the 1,000 Changes of the Forest. He was still very confident in activating martial skills. However, Lin Yi could only activate up to the 4th form of martial skill. After advancing to mid-earth class, Lin Yi had also tried to activate the 5th form, the Frenzy Fist, and the 5th form, the 1,000 Changes of the Forest, but to no avail. As for the reason, Lin Yi guessed that it was because he hadn't consolidated his strength as a mid-earth class. But now it was different. Lin Yi had consolidated his strength as a mid-earth class. If he worked hard, he should be able to activate the 5th form of martial skill, right? This martial skill was left behind by my contracted master. There are a total of 30 forms. The Great Fire Lion was suddenly interrupted by Lin Yi. "What? 30 forms?" The Great Fire Lion's words immediately shattered Lin Yi's understanding. How can there be 30 forms? Aren't all martial skills in this world divided into 20 forms, regardless of whether they're superior, inferior, or not? It was no wonder that Lin Yi was surprised. When Faubert taught him martial skills, he had told him that the first 10 forms of martial skills could be activated by an earth class, and the last 10 forms could be activated by a heaven class. The martial skills he saw in the Hidden Han family also stopped at 20 forms. How could there suddenly be a 30-form martial skill from the Great Fire Lion? Haha, 20 forms. That's what most cultivators know. The first 10 forms of this martial art can only be used by those in the earth rank, while the last 10 forms can only be used by those in the heaven rank. Apart from my contracted master who accidentally discovered this secret, the rest of the people in this sect, including the previous sect masters, only knew about the 20 forms. Big Flame Lion nodded and said, "It's precisely because my contracted master discovered the last 10 forms of this martial art that he became even more fanatical in his pursuit of the realm after the heaven rank. Because he was at the peak of the late heaven rank, his bottleneck was the 20th form, and he couldn't activate the 21st form no matter what. But according to his research and analysis, from the 21st form onwards, martial skills step into a whole new realm, an unprecedented height. Of course, you can just treat what I'm telling you as anecdotes. There's no need to deliberately pursue anything." "I understand." Lin Yi knew that the Great Fire Lion was warning him not to bite off more than he could chew. The reason why I haven't told the successor of this martial skill and the last 10 forms of this martial skill is also because I'm afraid that they'll bite off more than they can chew, or that they'll wholeheartedly pursue a higher level of martial arts and neglect the proper business. The Great Fire Lion said, and the reason why I'm passing this martial skill to you is because there's no successor in this sect. I'm passing this martial skill to you in the hope that you'll pass it on in the future so that it won't be lost. Good. Before I reach the peak of the late heaven class, I won't try to study the last 10 forms. Lin Yi nodded and promised. The Great Fire Lion nodded and then took out a thread-bound ancient book from a secret compartment in a corner of the cave. He handed it to Lin Yi and said, I suggest you practice here. If you can practice to the 5th form before going up the mountain, that's the best. But if you can't, you can go up the mountain tomorrow morning. I won't stop you. Lin Yi couldn't wait to take the thread-bound secret book. However, he was shocked speechless by the 3 big words on the cover of the secret book. Because on the cover of the secret book was written, Frenzied Fire Fist. Chapter 22-26. Did these 2 Frenzy Fiery Fist martial skills have the same name, or were they originally the same one? Thinking of this, Lin Yi quickly opened the Frenzy Fiery Fist secret manual in his hands. With just one glance, Lin Yi was dumbstruck. It was actually exactly the same. It was exactly the same as the Frenzy Fiery Fist that Faubert had imparted to him. Not a single word was different. At least, the mantra for the first 10 moves was exactly the same. What was going on? Lin Yi's mind went blank. A little messy. The few scattered things suddenly came together, and it seemed like a miracle and a coincidence, but it wasn't a coincidence at all. Phew. Lin Yi took a deep breath and carefully recalled what Faubert had said. He was originally the young master of an ancient sect, but because of a treasure in the sect, his sect was exterminated. And on this Wulonghout mountain range, there used to be an ancient sect, but this ancient sect had now vanished into thin air. Was this a coincidence or an overlap? Big Fire Lion, may I ask, was the ancient sect on this Wulonghout mountain range destroyed by someone? Lin Yi asked seriously. Oh. Why are you asking this? A trace of vigilance flashed across the Big Fire Lion's eyes. What do you know? Nothing, I just want to confirm a fact. As Lin Yi spoke, he placed the Frenzy Fiery Fist secret manual that the Big Fire Lion had given him aside. Suddenly, he activated his inner force mantra and began to activate the Frenzy Fiery Fist martial skill. From the first move, he smoothly used it all the way to the 4th move. Then, Lin Yi began to try activating the 5th move, but his attempt failed. However, even if he failed, Lin Yi was still pleasantly surprised. He could clearly feel the aura of the 5th style that was about to break out of his body. It was just that he was too impatient. He was eager to demonstrate his frenzied fire fist to the Great Flame Lion. He wanted to know the truth from the Great Flame Lion's mouth. In Lin Yi's mind, there was already an extremely shocking and bold conjecture. Moreover, this conjecture was gradually becoming clearer. If it could be confirmed. Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi with a complicated gaze. Frenzied Flame Fist. You actually know Frenzy Fist. The Great Fire Lion stared at Lin Yi in disbelief. What's your relationship with the sect on the mountain? That's right. You guys went to the upper vein to look for things according to the map. It must have something to do with the ancient sect in the upper vein. Why didn't I think of this? When the Great Fire Lion said this, a look of realization appeared on his face. Without the permission of Faubert and Grandma Sun, Lin Yi absolutely could not reveal their identities. Moreover, his enemy was unknown. If he exposed it, he was afraid that it would cause trouble. That's right. If the answer to my question is yes, then I have something to do with the people in this sect on the mountain. Lin Yi said. You're right. They were indeed exterminated. The Great Fire Lion sighed. So that's the case. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Then, didn't you help? I'm just the contractual spiritual beast of the previous sect leader of this sect. He's gone, so I have no obligation to protect the others in this sect. The Great Fire Lion shook his head and said, In this sect, only he helped me. However, the rise and fall of a sect is a normal thing. He didn't ask me to help him protect this sect. Moreover, there were many heaven stage masters at that time. I was no match for them at all. Lin Yi nodded and hesitated for a moment. There were still some things that he didn't say. Now, Lin Yi had basically confirmed 4 things. The first thing was that Faubert and Grandma Sun were the young sect leader and young madam of the ancient sect that was exterminated on the Wulonghout Mountains. The second thing was that Sun Jingyi's parents. If Lin Yi was right, it should be Faubert and Grandma Sun. This point, when he thought of what Sun Yikai had told him about Sun Jingyi's background, he could basically confirm that Sun Jingyi was not a member of the Sun family. Her surname was changed after she returned to the Sun family. But at that time, she was very young, so she was not very clear about these things. And she had such a map on her, and the location on the map was Faubert's sect, the Wulonghout Mountains. Then, the relationship between Sun Jingyi and Grandma Sun was basically obvious. No wonder Lin Yi saw that Grandma Sun and Sun Jingyi were very similar. At first, Lin Yi didn't think much about it. Grandma Sun was a member of the Sun family, and Sun Jingyi was also a member of the Sun family. They were relatives, and it was normal for them to look similar. But now it seemed that the third thing was another map. That map was given to him by the late-stage heaven-stage strange old man, but he called him Li Er. Faubert's current name was Li Fu, but that was his alias. His real name was Fu Li. Could this Li be Faubert's master? If this was the case, then all the mysteries could be explained. He was Faubert's master, so naturally, he had half of the map. Sun Jingyi was Faubert's daughter, so she also had half of the map. This world was really small. The fourth thing, which was also the most important, was that the thing on the map was not the relic left by Sun Jingyi's parents, but the treasure that caused the destruction of this sect. Sun Jingyi's parents were not dead, so there was no relic. The strange old man also mentioned that the thing on the map was a treasure. These four things gave Lin Yi a headache. Should he tell Sun Jingyi the truth? Although these were all Lin Yi's inferences and guesses, it was probably not far from the truth. After hesitating for a moment, Lin Yi still planned to go back and discuss it with Faubert and Grandma Sunday. Otherwise, it was not the right time to tell Sun Jingyi. Whether it was true or not, it would inevitably affect Sun Jingyi's mood. Secondly, Lin Yi still had to carefully consider this matter. The fourth style, if you work hard, the fifth style should not be a problem. Lin Yi said, "I think there is no problem." The big fire lion nodded. Just now, your momentum was already out, but it was impatient. As long as you practice more, you should be able to successfully activate it in a few days. A few days. Lin Yi smiled and did not say anything more. Instead, he directly operated the internal cultivation method and began to activate the Frenzy Fist. Chapter 22-27. He was not demonstrating to the Great Fire Lion, nor did he want to prove anything. Therefore, he calmly executed the last style, the fifth style. An unprecedented hot flame turned into a beautiful fire dragon, bursting out from Lin Yi's right fist. The strong flame formed a fireball in the air and hit the stone wall of the cave. But Lin Yi's heart was filled with guilt as he unleashed this move. He knew the power of the first four moves of the Frenzy Fist, and now that he'd unleashed this move, the wall of the Fire Lion's cave would probably have a huge hole in it. Phew! The lion pounced at Lin Yi, opening its mouth and swallowing the fireball Lin Yi had sent out in one gulp. It was as if it had just had a full meal, and it was very satisfied. That works too. After Lin Yi finished his move, he looked at the Great Fire Lion with some surprise. "This is energy for me," said the Great Fire Lion. "Energy." A bitter smile crossed the corner of Lin Yi's mouth. "This thing can also be used as energy?" "Yes, with this energy, plus my previous accumulation, I estimate that by the time you go down the mountain, I can still complete a fireball bomb," said the Great Fire Lion. "But to be honest, you can actually execute the fifth style of Frenzy Fist in such a short period of time. You are really a genius that I have seen in 1,000 years. Genius." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Whether he was a genius or not, Lin Yi was not sure, but the art of dragon mastery and the martial art that came with it were definitely a genius mental cultivation method and a genius martial art. At least, I have never heard of anyone who can execute a new martial art in such a short period of time, said the Great Fire Lion. "I am going up the mountain tomorrow. How do I use this fireball bomb?" asked Lin Yi. "You just need to hold it in your hand and activate it together with the fifth style, Frenzy Fist." The Great Fire Lion explained how to use the Inferno Bomb. "I thought you would stay here for a while, but you've already activated the fifth move, Frenzied Fire Fist, so I won't hold you back. Be careful." "Thanks a lot," Lin Yi said sincerely. Not only did the Great Fire Lion give him 3 Fire Stream God Bombs, but Lin Yi's biggest gain was the Frenzied Fire Fist Martial Arts Manual. It turned out that this martial skill had 30 forms, not 20. You're welcome. Our Fire Lion clan will always remember your life-saving grace. If you need anything, you can come to the Wulonghout mountain range to find us at any time, said the Great Fire Lion. I can come back to get more stream fire magic bullets after I've used them up? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat after listening to the big Fire Lion's words. Sure. The Great Fire Lion nodded without hesitation. However, I'm afraid I can only make 1 more this year. Come back at this time next year, I can at least provide you with 3 more. Lin Yi did not expect the Great Fire Lion to be so grateful. He was touched. Lin Yi helped the Fire Lion cub, but at the critical moment, the Great Fire Lion also helped him to deal with the 5 protectors. Moreover, he gave him 3 Fire Stream God Bombs and a Frenzied Fire Fist Manual. This kindness had far exceeded what Lin Yi had given. Lin Yi only treated the Fire Lion cub when it was injured. The Great Fire Lion's generosity was beyond Lin Yi's imagination. It seemed that the Fire Lion clan was really grateful for a drop of water. Forget it. Since you treat me like this, then I will also give your Fire Lion clan some benefits. Lin Yi quickly made up his mind. If I'm not wrong, the Fire Lion cub and the lioness haven't stepped into the yellow rank, right? That's right. The Great Fire Lion did not understand what Lin Yi was talking about, but when he heard Lin Yi's question, he still answered truthfully. The lioness is just an ordinary lion with a higher aptitude and spiritual intelligence than a normal lion. There is still a gap between her and the Fire Lion clan. However, in our Fire Lion clan, I am the only one that has been passed down for thousands of years. If I want to reproduce, I can only find a lioness with a higher aptitude. The Fire Lion cub's bloodline is relatively pure, but the cultivation of us spiritual beasts relies on the consumption of heaven and earth treasures to accumulate. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth does not help us much in leveling up. These fruits and heaven and earth treasures for cultivation are limited in the Wulonghout mountain range. This is also the reason why our Fire Lion clan has conflicts with another spiritual beast clan. Lin Yi nodded. He knew this long ago. The Skybolt pig relied on swallowing heaven and earth treasures in the ancient tomb to level up. Little Fire Lion, come here for a moment. Although the Fire Lion cub was a little confused, it obediently ran over when Lin Yi called. Lin Yi carried it in his arms and entered the space of the jade pendant. He began to circulate the 2nd level of the art of dragon mastery. Suddenly, pure and majestic energy poured into the Fire Lion cub's body. The Fire Lion cub was shocked. However, it soon realized that Lin Yi had no evil intentions. On the contrary, Lin Yi was using a very strange method to transfer true qi to it to level up. The Fire Lion cub's strength suddenly increased. Very soon, it broke through the threshold of the yellow rank and became an early yellow rank spiritual beast. The Fire Lion cub and the lioness felt the changes in the Fire Lion cub. When they saw that the Fire Lion cub had become an early yellow rank spiritual beast, they were immediately shocked. On the other hand, the Skybolt pig and Sun Jingyi weren't surprised. They knew Lin Yi's ability. Under the surprised gazes of the Fire Lion cub and the lioness, the Fire Lion cub's strength continued to soar. From the early yellow rank, it directly jumped to the peak of the early yellow rank. Then, without stopping, it immediately entered the middle yellow rank. This kind of leveling speed scared the Fire Lion cub. It had lived for 1,000 years. Now that it had become a heaven-rank spiritual beast, it was also an existence that was very rare among spiritual beasts. After all, the current thin heaven and earth spiritual energy didn't have much effect on spiritual beasts. They could only level up by consuming large amounts of heaven and earth treasures. When the Fire Lion cub was young, it had several opportunities and swallowed a few top-grade heaven and earth treasures. That was why its strength was able to improve so quickly. Even so, it took 1,000 years to enter the heaven rank. And at this moment, it witnessed with its own eyes that its child, the Fire Lion cub, had suddenly become a middle yellow rank spiritual beast. No, it was now at the peak of the middle yellow rank. Very soon, the Fire Lion cub discovered that the Fire Lion cub had become the late yellow rank, and then the peak yellow rank. It looked at everything that was happening in front of it in disbelief. Was this real? Chapter 22-28. It was only half a step away from the early phase of Mystic class. The lion knew exactly how much pure qi was needed for a spirit beast to level up. It was much more than a human practitioner. How much pure qi did Lin Yi use to level up the little fire lion? The lion knew that Lin Yi was touched by the passion of the Fire Lion clan and wanted to repay them. But there were many kinds of repayments, and he didn't have to do this, right? After all, who didn't train hard to get their pure qi? If he gave it to someone else for no reason, wouldn't his own strength drop by a few levels? Thinking of this, Big Fire Lion wanted to stop Lin Yi. But he remembered that Lin Yi was working hard to transfer pure energy to the little Fire Lion. If he wasn't careful, it was very likely that all his previous efforts would be wasted, or he might even go crazy. So, Big Fire Lion didn't dare to disturb Lin Yi. At the same time, the little Fire Lion had already entered Mystic class, becoming a Mystic class early phase spirit beast. And that wasn't the end of it. Lin Yi was still helping the little Fire Lion increase its strength. Peak early phase, mid phase, peak mid phase, late phase. Only when it reached the peak late phase did Lin Yi stop and let out a long sigh of relief. He put the little Fire Lion aside. Although the Fire Lion was in some pain when it broke through the armlet, the Fire Lion race had strong willpower. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to fight the 3 golden class masters to the end without any hesitation. My abilities are limited. I can only do this much. The peak late phase of Mystic class is the limit of what I can give it. Lin Yi looked at the flabbergasted lion. This. Mr. Lin, you gave all your strength to the little Fire Lion, then you. The lion looked at Lin Yi hesitantly. Haha, I'm fine. I just need to rest for a while. Lin Yi said. Lioness, it's your turn now. The lioness was just a normal lion. If Lin Yi wasn't here, she might not even have the chance to enter the golden class, let alone level up. To put it bluntly, it was a problem with its bloodline. Its body didn't have the bloodline of an ancient spiritual beast. Even if it ate heavenly treasures and fruits every day, it would already be amazing if it could reach the golden class in this lifetime. Spiritual beasts were different from humans. Once they reached the yellow rank, their lifespan could be extended indefinitely. The Great Fire Lion wanted the lionesses to step into the yellow rank, but he couldn't do whatever he wanted with their strength. After all ancient spiritual beasts were passed down from generation to generation. Their bloodlines would slowly evolve, and they couldn't become ancient spiritual beasts with just 1 or 2 generations. Due to the bloodline issue, the lioness training progress was already very slow. If the lioness couldn't enter the golden rank within a few decades, then she could only leave quietly. This was not what the Great Fire Lion wanted to see. Therefore, when the Great Fire Lion heard Lin Yi's words, it was extremely excited and surprised. Can it do it too? The Great Fire Lion looked at Lin Yi hesitantly and reminded him, it doesn't have the bloodline of an ancient spiritual beast. After all, the Great Fire Lion was afraid that Lin Yi would forget that a lioness wasn't an ancient spiritual beast. It was extremely difficult for a normal animal to enter the yellow rank compared to an ancient spiritual beast. Even though it was hard enough for ancient spiritual beasts to level up, it was basically impossible for ordinary animals. Otherwise, if it was so easy for normal animals to enter the yellow rank, spiritual beasts would have been everywhere in the world and wouldn't be so rare. Of course, no problem. Of course, without General Wei Wu as a living example, Lin Yi wouldn't dare to guarantee it. But with General Wei Wu as an example, Lin Yi was sure that after his own level up, the lioness would also become a fake, ancient spiritual beast. After all, Lin Yi's art of dragon mastery and the space in the jade pendant were almost like a bug. She just needs to enter the yellow rank. She just needs to enter the yellow rank. The Great Fire Lion looked at Lin Yi excitedly and knelt down in front of Lin Yi. He said to Lin Yi respectfully, Mr. Lin, you are the benefactor of my Fire Lion clan, a great benefactor. Although I already have a contract master, I swear that as long as Mr. Lin needs it, the Fire Lion clan will treat Mr. Lin like the contract master. Let's see the results first. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't think that the Fire Lion would be this agitated. He just felt that the help he'd given the Fire Lion clan was far from what he'd given them. That was why he'd helped the Fire Lions level up. As Lin Yi spoke, he squatted down and grabbed the lioness meridians. The lioness was relatively large, so it was impossible for Lin Yi to carry her like he did with the little Fire Lion. Although Lin Yi could carry her, Lin Yi felt that it was too much trouble. With the little Fire Lion as an example, although the lioness felt a strong and pure qi flowing into her body, she wasn't too surprised. Instead, she silently gritted her teeth and endured this internal force, expanding it back and forth in her meridians. The lioness was just an ordinary lion. Her meridians hadn't been completely expanded, so Lin Yi had to help her expand her meridians first. Fortunately, everything was automatically done by the second level of the art of dragon mastery. So Lin Yi didn't have to waste any brain power and energy. He just had to continuously circulate the second level of the art of dragon mastery in the space in the jade pendant. To put it bluntly, Lin Yi didn't gain or lose anything. He had been doing useless work. When his body was in the space, he acted as a medium and transferred the energy in the space in the jade pendant to the lioness. Yellow rank. The time it took for the lioness to enter the yellow rank was longer than the little fire lion. However, it still crossed this hurdle in the end. This was the most important hurdle in its life. As long as it entered the yellow rank, it meant that it had become a spirit beast. The lioness naturally knew what this meant. In the future, she could stay with the big fire lion for a long time, and she wouldn't leave before she saw the little fire lion grow up. She was very excited. The big fire lion and the little fire lion were also very excited. They didn't expect that the heart disease that had troubled them for many years would be easily resolved at this moment. After entering the yellow rank, the lioness's leveling speed was much faster. It was almost the same as the little fire lion's leveling speed. Very quickly, she went from the early yellow rank to the peak of the early yellow rank, the middle yellow rank, the peak of the middle yellow rank, the late yellow rank, the peak of the late yellow rank. This kind of rapid leveling speed could be said to be unprecedented. The big fire lion didn't know what to say or how to express it in words. Even the little fire lion, who had endured Lin Yi's leveling up before, was shocked at this moment. Chapter 22-29. But seeing the lioness leveling up as quickly as it did in front of Lin Yi, the cub was dumbfounded. The lion and the cub looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. They never thought that they would meet such a benefactor. Lin Yi helped the cub, and the lion thought that Lin Yi was with the others on the surface. It wasn't good to thank him at that time, but it almost gave him a fatal injury. It was all thanks to the Skybolt Pig's call for help, and the lion never thought that Lin Yi's help wasn't over. Fire lions knew how to repay favors, and the lion felt that Lin Yi had saved the little fire lion's life, and it couldn't thank him enough. As a result, it gave him the Firebolt and Frenzy Fist manuals. But Lin Yi gave them an even more powerful favor, which was unexpected for the lion and the cub. They all knew that it was very difficult for the lioness to level up to the early phase of the golden class, but Lin Yi had already turned her into a mystic class early phase spirit beast, and her strength was still skyrocketing. In the end, the lioness' strength was the same as the cub's, at the peak of the late phase of the mystic class. This kind of strength, if there wasn't a fortuitous encounter, not to mention 1,000 years, even thousands of years might not be able to reach this level. The big fire lion had a fortuitous encounter, but it didn't mean that the cub and the lioness would also have a fortuitous encounter. So the fact that Lin Yi could raise their strength to the peak of the late phase of the mystic class made the whole family ecstatic. "It's done," Lin Yi said. "Thank you, benefactor," the big fire lion said solemnly. The cub and the lioness didn't know how to speak yet, but they could understand Lin Yi's words. Both of them prostrated on the ground, expressing their gratitude to Lin Yi with great sincerity. Early the next morning, Lin Yi bid farewell to the Fire Lion clan and prepared to go to the upper range of the Wulong Heot mountain range. Although the great Fire Lion knew that the upper range was potentially dangerous, he also knew that Lin Yi would not stop because of his dissuasion. He could only bid farewell to Lin Yi at the entrance of the cave. Lin Yi, Sun Jingyi, and Skybolt Pig walked towards the upper vein. As expected, after entering the upper vein, the scenery was completely different from the middle vein. There were not as many jungles and bushes in the upper mountains. Instead, there were rugged rocks and all kinds of broken walls. As for the mountain path, it was much easier to walk than before. There were clear stone steps leading to the top of the mountain. On the roadside, there were some dilapidated stone pavilions and some buildings that were so damaged that they could not be recognized. These all showed the past glory of this place. This was an important place of an ancient sect. However, the ancient sect had disappeared and this place had become a ruin. Of course, Lin Yi did not relax at all. Although this place looked quiet and there were no birds or beasts, Lin Yi always remembered what the Great Fire Lion said. There were often human heaven rank experts appearing here. My parents, are they from this sect? Sun Jingyi recalled the scene. Looking at the dilapidated scene on the road, she could not help but think of her parents. It should be. Lin Yi nodded and said, otherwise they would not have left you this map. That heaven-rank eccentric lunatic knows my parents. Sun Jingyi sighed and said, I'm afraid that when this sect was destroyed, my parents were also. In Sun Jingyi's heart, she had always had a glimmer of hope for her parents. Although the people in the family said that both her parents were dead, before there was any definite news, Sun Jingyi would rather believe that her parents might still be alive. However, when she arrived here and saw the dilapidated place, Sun Jingyi's confidence was shaken. Don't be discouraged. Maybe they are still alive. Lin Yi already had a guess in his heart, but it was not good to tell Sun Jingyi now. And thank you. Sun Jingyi nodded gratefully. To be honest, she was very grateful to Lin Yi. Lin Yi accompanied her from thousands of miles away to come here, and almost lost his life in the hands of the Tagan family's fifth guardian. All of this made Sun Jingyi feel touched. This was beyond the friendship between normal friends. It wasn't something that could make Lin Yi run all the way for her just because they were half-lovers. A touch of faint feelings arose in Sun Jingyi's heart. However, she didn't say it out, because there were too many women around Lin Yi. It wasn't that Lin Yi had a lot of girlfriends, but there were too many people who liked Lin Yi. The competition was really fierce, and Sun Jingyi appeared as a joke from the beginning. Now that the joke became real, would it cause Meng Yao and Yushu's hostility? These two were the two girls who had the closest relationship with Lin Yi. If Lin Yi wanted to find a girlfriend, he probably had to listen to their suggestions. What's there to thank? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. No news about your parents is good news. I'm not talking about that. Sun Jingyi blushed slightly, a little embarrassed. Then what is it? Lin Yi was even more puzzled. Thank you for coming here with me, and thank you for everything you have done for me, almost paying with your life. Sun Jingyi said solemnly and gratefully. This is what I promised you. Lin Yi said, actually to me, this is also a kind of experience. Seeking breakthroughs in dangerous situations is also a kind of pursuit in martial arts. Okay. Sun Jingyi knew that this was the kind of person Lin Yi was. For friends, for family, for lovers, he would do anything. If we want to know the exact location on this map, we must go to the top of the mountain. Only by going to the top of the mountain will we be able to see the whole mountain. Lin Yi said as he looked at the map in his hand. And Sun Jingyi nodded. Although Sun Jingyi was not an ordinary cultivator, she was also similar to a cultivator. Her physical strength was quite good. The two of them almost didn't rest. They walked all the way up the mountain. They set off in the early morning, and it was now noon. They were close to the top of the mountain. Of course, this was because Lin Yi considered Sun Jingyi's speed, so he deliberately slowed down his walking speed. Otherwise, if Lin Yi went up the mountain alone, his speed would probably be much faster than now. When the two of them stood at the top of the mountain, it was already afternoon. Looking at the magnificent walls and the ruined palace in front of them, Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi's hearts were full of emotions. There was probably a fierce battle here in the past, so it was destroyed to such a state. The original magnificent building was now in ruins. Lin Yi sighed, and he felt a little strange. What kind of huge and terrifying force could destroy an ancient sect? Chapter 22:30. Even at the ancient level, there were strong and weak sects, but overall the gap should not be too big. To be able to establish a sect here for thousands of years, it should not be a small sect. But to exterminate them just like that, it was simply inconceivable. And the most terrifying thing was, Faubert did not even know who the enemy was. Did he really not know, or did he not want to say? Thinking of this, Lin Yi frowned slightly. Even if the ancient Feng family was weaker, and the Everyday After Sun sect was stronger, it did not mean that the Everyday After Sun sect could destroy the ancient sect. Not to mention the ancient level, even in the hidden level, those hidden families wanted to suppress the hidden Han family, but this ancient sect was destroyed just like that? Just how powerful was the power that caused this? Moreover, this treasure, how useful must it be for a sect to be destroyed? This place. Just from the outside, you can tell how glorious it used to be. I didn't expect it to be destroyed like this. Sun Jingyi said with a sigh. Didn't Big Fire Lion say it? The rise and fall of sects is a common thing in the world. There is nothing to be sad about. Lin Yi advised. Sun Jingyi nodded, and the two of them walked through the gate of the sect. What they saw was all kinds of ruins. Houses, palaces, everything was broken and messy. It did not look like it was naturally damaged because no one took care of it. After all, this sect was destroyed only a few decades ago. How old was Faubert? How old was Sun Jingyi? Such a broken place, without 100 years of disrepair, it was impossible. But it did not look like it was caused by a battle between two sides, but more like it was man-made. That's right, it was man-made. Thinking of the ruins he saw along the way, Lin Yi suddenly realized. Fu Bo's sect was exterminated because of that treasure. However, that treasure was hidden by the strange old lunatic. This group of bandits who came to exterminate the sect naturally didn't miss any corner in order to find that treasure. They searched everywhere, so it was normal for the inside to be destroyed to this extent. Since they could not find the treasure, smashing the buildings here was also in line with their mood. Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi were standing in a grand hall at the highest point of the mountain. This grand hall was majestic, with some ancient Greek architectural style. The grand hall was like a huge pavilion, supported by stone pillars. Under the feet were pieces of green bricks, and above, there was a huge eave. However, everything here was made of stone. Thinking about it, this place should have been the place where the ancient sect gathered and practiced martial arts or held important activities. However, at this moment, there were broken walls everywhere. Many stone pillars had fallen, and more than half of the main hall's roof had collapsed. But even so, it could not cover up the grandeur of this place. Standing in this grand hall, the topography of Wulonghout mountain range could be said to be panoramic. Although they could not see clearly, the general outline was still very clear. Lin Yi took out the map and gave it to Sun Jingyi. Based on the position on the map, they began to determine their current location and destination. The map was scanned and printed by Sun Jingyi, so Lin Yi and her each had a copy. GG. As if feeling the majesty and magnificence of the grand hall, Skybolt Pig could not help but cry out loudly. Don't be noisy. Lin Yi was observing the topography. Even if Skybolt Pig was excited, Lin Yi would not care about it. Go play by yourself. GG. Skybolt Pig was a little wronged. Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi each stood on one side, and based on the position on the map, they began to search. Wulonghout mountain range was very big, especially the upper range, which was even more vast. Thinking about it, this upper range was once the most prosperous area in Wulonghout mountain range. This continuous green mountain was the place where the disciples of this ancient sect cultivated, but in just one night, it was turned into ruins. To be able to establish a sect here was indeed a very great and fascinating thing. Although Lin Yi's eyesight was not bad, and Sun Jingyi had also browsed the topography of Wulonghout mountain range on the internet, it was not easy to find the exact location from this upper range. Because the map was very sloppy, there were no specific coordinates or landmark buildings, it was completely just a topographic map, so searching for it increased a lot of difficulty for Lin Yi. In the blink of an eye, the sun had almost set. Sun Jingyi sighed. It seemed that even if she was anxious, it was useless. Take a break for a while, eat something? You eat, I will look for it again. It seems that there is some progress. Lin Yi said. If we wait any longer, the sun will set. We have to make good use of this time. That's good. I will accompany you to find it. Sun Jingyi saw that Lin Yi did not eat, and she was embarrassed to eat alone, so she picked up the map and continued to search. I don't eat because I can cultivate, but you don't eat, aren't you hungry? Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi and smiled bitterly. You don't have to care about me. How can I do that? You're doing this to help me. How can I eat it? Jingyi insisted. Lin Yi had no choice but to seize the time to look at the terrain. Half an hour later, when Lin Yi's gaze moved from the farthest mountain range to the nearest mountain range, Lin Yi suddenly had a feeling of wanting to cry. Because Lin Yi suddenly found that the rough terrain marked on the map was exactly the same as the terrain at the top of the mountain under his feet. This made Lin Yi have a feeling that he had found the iron filings without any effort. Dare I ask where the road is? The road is under your feet. However, this couldn't be blamed on Lin Yi. Generally, when people stood on the top of the mountain, if they were looking for the terrain, they would start from the farthest place in front of them and narrow the range all the way. Finally, they would look in front of them from far to near, so that it was not easy to miss anything. However, because of the order problem, it made Lin Yi waste half a day in vain. As a result, the terrain marked on the map was under Lin Yi's feet, which made Lin Yi speechless. Seeing Lin Yi's strange and hesitant expression, Sun Jingyi was also a little puzzled. Lin Yi, what's wrong with you? The place indicated on this map is under our feet. Lin Yi pointed to the terrain on the map and said, Under our feet? Sun Jingyi was stunned. Chapter 22:31. Oh! Sun Jingyi listened to Lin Yi's words and looked at the map in her hand in shock. She didn't know if she didn't look at it, but when she looked at it, she was shocked. Just like what Lin Yi said, if the pillars and broken walls in the hall were removed, the shape under their feet really matched the map. However, when they entered the hall at the top of the mountain, everyone's first impression was probably the magnificence of the hall. They also paid attention to its spectacular appearance, but they ignored the green bricks under their feet. The shape formed by the green bricks, looking closely, was not regular because the top of the mountain was not regular. Therefore, even if the hall was built in a regular pattern, the green bricks were not regular and covered the entire top of the mountain. And the shape formed by this area was the picture on the map. Sure enough. It seems that it is so obvious. But we ignored it. Sun Jingyi smiled bitterly. I finally understand one thing. What is the most dangerous place is the safest. This is a hall, it is the most prominent place, and the location of the thing marked on the map is here. Lin Yi said in amazement. However, I think that anyone who comes here will unconsciously focus on this hall. Yes. Sun Jingyi said, if you didn't remind me, I would continue to look around. Moreover, I searched from near to far, but even so, I ignored the hall under my feet. Instead, I started from the bottom of the mountain and expanded in all directions. Lin Yi nodded. Since we have determined the location, let's find the specific location according to the detailed map. And, now that the sky is not completely dark, we can still use the afterglow of the sunset to search for a while. With a general direction, it is much easier to search again. Although the map is very rough, we can roughly determine the location from the map. Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi worked hard together and quickly determined the general location on the map. Skybolt Pig. Lin Yi called Skybolt Pig, but he found that Skybolt Pig was lying on the green bricks not far away, looking very bored. GG. The Skybolt Pig called out weakly. Skybolt Pig, according to the map, this should be the area. Help me look around and see if there's anything hidden around here. Lin Yi asked Skybolt Pig. GG. The Skybolt Pig weakly called out twice and pointed at the ground with its paw. What do you mean? Lin Yi was stunned. Rawr. The Skybolt Pig pointed at the green bricks under its feet with its front paw again. You mean, the thing is here? Lin Yi's eyes widened. GG. The Heavenly Thunder Pig nodded. So, you've already found it? Lin Yi suddenly remembered that when they arrived at the top of the mountain, the Skybolt Pig kept squeaking non-stop. Could it be that this little thing had already found it? GG. The Skybolt Pig nodded again. Fuck. Lin Yi was speechless. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Lin Yi was speechless. This little pig had already found the place when they first came up, but he thought it was excited, so he ignored it and let it play by itself. In the end, he and Sun Jingyi wasted half a day's effort and did a lot of useless work. GG. The Skybolt Pig pointed at its mouth and pointed at the green bricks with its paw. Then it shook its head. Lin Yi understood what it meant. The Skybolt Pig meant that it couldn't speak, and the green bricks were very hard, so it couldn't write on them. Lin Yi sighed at the Skybolt Pig's action. He looked at Sun Jingyi with an awkward gaze. This was his mistake, which led to the current situation. If Lin Yi paid more attention to the Skybolt Pig, maybe he wouldn't have to put in so much effort. It's not your fault. I didn't pay attention at the time. Sun Jingyi didn't know whether to laugh or cry about this. The Skybolt Pig actually found the target from the start, while she and Lin Yi foolishly wasted a lot of time. But it's a good thing to be able to find it. In the end, everything went smoothly, and there were no accidents. That's true. Lin Yi nodded. On the top of the mountain, Lin Yi was most afraid of the appearance of the heaven rank master that the great fire lion mentioned. But now, the whole mountain was quiet. Other than him and Sun Jingyi, there was no one else. Lin Yi squatted down and carefully pried up the green brick that the Skybolt Pig pointed at. For an earth rank master like Lin Yi, this was an easy thing to do. But after he pried up the brick, there was only mud below, and there was no hidden compartment. Are you sure it's here? There's nothing here? Lin Yi looked at the bottom of the green brick with some doubt. GG. The Skybolt Pig nodded with certainty. He stretched out his front paw and pointed at the bottom of the green brick, indicating to Lin Yi that the thing was below, but it might be under the mud. Okay. Since the Skybolt Pig was so sure, then Lin Yi didn't say anything more. He picked up his hands and started to dig. This kind of hard mud was not difficult for Lin Yi, He just needed to use his hands to dig. However, after digging a few times, Lin Yi didn't feel anything strange. But since the skybolt pig was so confident, then Lin Yi continued to dig. After digging for about 30 centimeters, Lin Yi's hand touched a hard object. It seemed to be a metal box. Lin Yi's heart was happy. There was really something there. He quickly increased his digging speed and dug out the thing quickly. This was a very plain-looking metal box. It didn't have the slightest bit of magnificence, but it could be seen that the workmanship of this metal box was very good. There was also a sealing tape at the gap to prevent the inside from soaking in water. You found it already? Sun Jingyi looked at the small metal box in Lin Yi's hand. She was suddenly surprised and happy, and her heart was very excited. The secret of her parents that she had been looking forward to and fantasizing about for so many years could perhaps be solved through this small metal box. Just when Lin Yi wanted to say something, the jade pendant on his chest suddenly sent out a warning signal. Danger! Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't expect that what should come would finally come. Originally, Lin Yi thought that although this trip to the Wulonghout Mountains was bumpy, the final result would be good. But what Lin Yi didn't expect was that this wasn't the end. Perhaps, the danger and battle had just begun. Chapter 22:32. After that, Lin Yi stuffed the iron box into Sun Jingyi's arms. I'll go meet the enemy later. Protect yourself carefully. See how many enemies there are. If there's only one, you can run to the Great Fire Lion to take refuge. Don't worry about me. Sun Jingyi wanted to say, how can I do that? How can I run away alone? But seeing Lin Yi's determined gaze, Sun Jingyi sighed and didn't say anything. She was extremely nervous. She didn't expect that the enemy would come at this time when they found the thing. It really is you guys. A deafening laughter came, making people feel uncomfortable. You guys, you made me wait for a long time. It's been more than 10 years, I've been waiting here, waiting day and night, hoping for the stars and the moon. But in the end, I wasn't disappointed. In the end, someone still appeared here. Who are you? Lin Yi's cold gaze swept towards the direction of the voice. The one who came had ill intentions, and the kind didn't come. Before, Lin Yi didn't notice that there was someone on the mountain, so there were only two possibilities. One was that this person had just arrived, and the second was that this person's strength was much higher than Lin Yi's, and he was good at hiding his strength. Moreover, before Lin Yi found the thing, he didn't show any hostility. If it was the second possibility, then the enemy in front of him was a very scary one. But Lin Yi also knew that the possibility of the second possibility was much higher than the first. You don't need to know who I am. The figure of the person who came quickly floated over, and appeared 10 feet away from Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi. He was wearing a black bagua robe, and his attire was as strange as it could be. He was about 40 years old, and from the aura he emitted, Lin Yi could see his strength. An early-stage heaven-class master. However, although he was only an early-stage heaven-class master, Lin Yi could clearly feel that he was different from the early-stage heaven-class masters from the hidden aristocratic families. Compared to this heaven-rank initial stage expert, those hidden aristocratic families' heaven-rank initial stage experts were simply too weak. Although their strength levels were the same, their auras were completely different. This person was a formidable opponent. In this situation, Lin Yi didn't have any doubts. Most of the heaven-rank experts of the hidden aristocratic families relied on pills or natural treasures to forcefully increase their strength. Those who truly relied on themselves to break through were few and far between. And this person in front of him definitely relied on his own strength to break through to heaven rank. This was just like how if Lin Yi and an expert of the same rank were together, Lin Yi could instantly kill an 8th protector of the same rank, but the 8th protector would definitely not be able to instantly kill Lin Yi. This was the same principle. Which force do you represent? Lin Yi asked faintly. Were you the ones who destroyed the ancient sects here? If Lin Yi's guess was correct, then Lin Yi could more or less determine the identity of this early-stage heaven-rank expert. You're quite smart. The early-stage heaven-rank expert said faintly. He was the Tagan family's great protector. Of course, whether it was this identity or his true identity, he wouldn't tell Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi was only a person who was about to die in his eyes, he still couldn't casually say anything about that place. However, many smart people have short lives. The Great Protector didn't answer Lin Yi's question and instead said, hand over all the good things on you and I'll leave your corpse intact. Everyone knows how to talk big. If you want the things in my hands, you'll have to beat me first. When Lin Yi said this, his confidence was clearly lacking. At that time in the hidden aristocratic family's meeting, he had deceived those early-stage heaven-rank old fellows to the point that they didn't dare to make a move. He created the illusion that he was invincible under heaven rank and could even contend against heaven rank experts. However, this person in front of him, Lin Yi could feel that he wasn't as timid as those heaven rank old fellows. This person was definitely a ruthless character. Beat you? An earth rank mid-stage expert dares to say this in front of me? You're really overestimating yourself. The Great Protector looked at Lin Yi with some ridicule. Obediently hand over the things on you and I can guarantee that your woman won't die. At this moment, the Great Protector also clearly saw Sun Jingyi. At this moment, he could conclude that this person wasn't the person they were looking for back then, but someone who looked somewhat similar. But even so, this person was definitely related to that person back then. Therefore, the Great Protector couldn't make the decision and had to bring her back to that place and let those higher-ups decide. Since that's the case, then you can go die, old thing. As Lin Yi said this, he threw a true energy bomb over. Then, he also threw the fifth style of Frenzy Fist together with the Fire Stream God Bullet. Boom! A thunderous sound rang out in front of the Great Protector's chest. Then, Lin Yi also threw the fifth style of Frenzy Fist towards the Great Protector's chest. Since this guy had appeared in front of him, Lin Yi couldn't avoid fighting him. Therefore, Lin Yi's first move was a killer move, leaving no room for maneuver. Lin Yi definitely couldn't outrun a heaven rank expert. No matter how exquisite Lin Yi's movement technique was, he still wasn't a heaven rank expert's opponent. In front of an earth rank expert or those heaven rank old fellows from the hidden families, Lin Yi had the confidence to escape. But against someone like the Great Protector, Lin Yi had no confidence at all. They came and went like the wind, similar to Aunt Qing and Little Miss Rock Candy that he saw in the Ice Palace. They were real heaven stage experts, completely different from those heaven stage experts who used elixirs and heavenly treasures to improve without actual combat experience. Especially with Sun Jingyi by his side, Lin Yi couldn't escape alone, so he could only fight with the Great Protector. The Great Protector didn't expect that an expert of Lin Yi's level would dare to attack a heaven rank expert. This made him shocked and angry. Although Lin Yi's attack wouldn't cause too much damage to him, he was still very angry. This was Lin Yi's contempt towards him. Previously, the Great Protector already knew what happened when they surrounded the Fire Lion at the foot of the mountain range. Although Lin Yi took advantage of the 8th Protector's unpreparedness and killed the 8th Protector, he was beaten up by the 5th Protector like a ball. If it wasn't for the Fire Lion, Lin Yi would have been kicked to death. Chapter 22:33. This also caused Lin Yi's attack to hit the bodyguard. Not only did the energy bomb explode on the bodyguard's chest, Lin Yi's fifth form of Frenzy Fist combined with the Inferno God Bomb also hit the bodyguard's body. By the time the bodyguard used his chi to protect his body, it was already too late. He was still injured by Lin Yi. Although it was a light injury, it was a great humiliation to the bodyguard. The guard's face was filled with hatred and anger, his red eyes staring at Lin Yi. His chest was in turmoil from Lin Yi's attack, and he needed to circulate his practitioner's arts to calm it down. He said with a savage face, "Good, very good. Kid, I've underestimated you. You can actually use such a powerful technique? If I'm not wrong, this technique of yours already has the power of the 11th form, right?" Humph. Lin Yi didn't think that his full power attack would only cause the bodyguard's blood to surge. It was just a breath's time, and the bodyguard returned to normal. Lin Yi's heart sank. He was still a little too weak. The hidden noble house meeting made Lin Yi's confidence expand to the limit. But after coming to the Wulong Haut mountain range, he was hit again and again. "It's fine if you don't tell me. I don't want to know your secret," the bodyguard said faintly. "I have to say, among the young generation, you do have some skills. But you dying by my hand is not an injustice. Even if you're the pride of an ancient sect, it's not an injustice. Why are you fine? My move just now was equivalent to the 11th martial skill. You are an early-stage heaven stage expert. At most, you can only use the 11th martial skill. Even if you use true chi to protect your body, it is impossible for you to be unharmed, right?" This was what Lin Yi didn't understand the most. When Su Shirhan and Cheng Yi were attacked, he fought with the Earth-class black-clothed man. The black-clothed man's strength was even higher, but he couldn't withstand Lin Yi's technique. But this person in front of him didn't seem to be injured at all. You really want to know? The head protector faintly smiled and said, Then there's no harm in telling you. I'll let you die knowing. This move of yours has power and momentum, but your true strength is lacking. You only relied on unorthodox methods to increase your strength. The strength of your true chi is far from enough. You might be able to deal with ordinary heaven-rank initial phase experts, but you're out of luck to meet me. After listening to the head protector's words, Lin Yi's expression suddenly changed. He didn't expect things to develop to this point. This was the most difficult and headache-inducing battle for Lin Yi. Before the fight even started, Lin Yi already wanted to retreat. If what the head protector said was true, then Lin Yi really wasn't his match. Hey, since you're so confident, why don't you take 5 of my moves? If you can take 5 of my moves, I'll give you the item, and you can do whatever you want with it. Lin Yi hesitated for a moment before saying with some reluctance. Lin Yi's suggestion stunned the head protector. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would make such a strange request at this time. However, it had to be said that Lin Yi's suggestion made the head protector a little tempted. Although Lin Yi was nothing in his eyes, and taking Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi's lives was as easy as turning over his palm, he was afraid that Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi would run away separately. If Sun Jingyi ran away, he would definitely chase after her. However, if Lin Yi ran away, there would be some variables. If Lin Yi really ran away with the inner elixir of the 2 spirit beasts and ran to the great flame lion's side, then he really wouldn't be able to do anything. Of course, the treasure in Sun Jingyi's hands was much more important than the inner elixir of the spirit beasts. However, the head protector didn't want to miss out on Lin Yi's inner elixir. The head protector nodded slowly at this thought and said, All right, in that case, how about I take 5 of your moves? All right, then I'm going to make my move. Lin Yi relaxed and started to compress the energy bomb. On the surface, Lin Yi seemed to be dawdling as if he was executing a move. Are you going to make your move? The head protector frowned when he saw that Lin Yi wasn't making his move and asked impatiently. Of course I'm going to make my move. Shouldn't I take some time to prepare? My previous swift and fierce attack didn't do anything to you. This time, I'll have to prepare more and come up with a ruthless move. Lin Yi said. Hurry up. The head protector coldly snorted. Come up with a ruthless move? Although he didn't know what Lin Yi was dawdling about, he thought that Lin Yi probably wanted to take advantage of the head protector's unprepared and attack him. However, the head protector sneered in his heart. Do you think you can sneak attack a heaven stage expert just because you want to? Soon. Lin Yi said. The head protector was somewhat speechless. He thought, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm afraid of trouble and that you'll run away with the inner elixir of the spirit beasts, I wouldn't be bothered to play this game with you. However, Lin Yi was still standing there unhurriedly. It seemed like he was about to make a move, but it also seemed like he wasn't. No one knew what he was doing. Sun Jingyi was worried. She wanted to let the heavenly thunder pig inform the great flame lion to come up and help. However, when she thought of what the great flame lion had said before, she gave up on this plan. If the great flame lion could accompany them up the mountain, it would have already accompanied them. It didn't come up naturally because it had its own difficulties. Therefore, Sun Jingyi couldn't force it. She could only look at Lin Yi very worriedly. She didn't know what he wanted to do. Lin Yi was now dragging it for a minute. Since the 11th style of the frenzied fire fist couldn't do anything to the head protector, then the only thing he could rely on was the true chi bomb. The true chi bomb was a tried and tested magic weapon of Lin Yi. No matter what level the opponent was, they would still be blown to pieces. However, the disadvantage of this move was that it took a long time to use. If the enemy didn't give Lin Yi time, then Lin Yi would be powerless. Are you done? If you don't make a move, I'll change my mind. Although the head protector didn't know what Lin Yi was stalling for, he eventually became impatient and shouted at Lin Yi. Oh, I'll be done soon. Lin Yi said. You're a senior master. Shouldn't you give a junior like me some time to prepare? You can prepare, but what do you want to do? Could it be that you're stalling for time? The head protector wasn't stupid. Lin Yi's strength was obviously in the middle phase of the Earth stage. No matter how powerful he was, in his opinion, he wouldn't be able to turn over a storm. Therefore, Lin Yi's behavior at this time was a bit suspicious. Chapter 22:34. Then he continued, I was injured yesterday, and it was very serious. You also know that the move I used on you just now has consumed a lot of my energy, so I need to recover. Then hurry up. The guard naturally knew about Lin Yi's injury. After hearing what he said, he felt that it was reasonable, so he nodded. Got it. Lin Yi responded faintly, but he was sure of his guess in his heart. This person was most likely sent by Tagan Long. Lin Yi also had some plans for him to appear here at this moment. Yesterday, only Tagan Long and Shiraz knew about Lin Yi's injury. The others were all dead. Just now, when Lin Yi mentioned that he was injured yesterday, the guard didn't look surprised. Instead, he looked like he understood, which indirectly proved that he knew about this news. Now, the only thing that Lin Yi wasn't sure about was the relationship between this guard and the Tagan family. In Lin Yi's opinion, the Tagan family shouldn't have the ability to destroy the ancient sect that Faubert was in. They couldn't even deal with a small fire lion, let alone a huge ancient sect. However, if Faubert's sect wasn't destroyed by them, where did this guard come from? How did he know about the treasure? The only explanation was that the Tagan family and Faubert's enemies were inextricably linked. The guard waited for another 10 minutes or so and finally couldn't take it anymore. Kid, are you done yet? If you don't make a move, I'll personally send you on your way. Lin Yi sighed in his heart. He was still far from it. He had only condensed 1/3 of the energy. This energy bomb could probably cause fatal damage to the 5 guards yesterday, but Lin Yi didn't have the slightest confidence in dealing with this person in front of him. However, on the surface, Lin Yi nodded solemnly and said, "Here it comes. Take this. Frenzy Fist, first form." As he spoke, Lin Yi struck out with the first form of Frenzy Fist. However, this form was only practiced in the air and did not attack the Great Protector at all. Moreover, Lin Yi tried his best to slow down the speed of his punches without affecting the progress and power of his Frenzy Fist. Meanwhile, Lin Yi's left hand was still continuously compressing the energy bomb. When the guard heard that Lin Yi was about to use his martial skill, he didn't retaliate. He just used his Zhen Qi to protect his body. He said 5 moves, so 5 moves. He was a sky-class master and one that came from that place. How could he go back on his words to a little earth-class master? Therefore, the head protector had no intention of counterattacking. Instead, he was prepared to receive Lin Yi's attack head-on. However, when he was ready, Lin Yi directly hit the air, making the guard speechless for a while. Was this guy crazy? After preparing for a long time, he practiced a move in the air. Even so, the head protector didn't pay attention to Lin Yi. He snorted coldly and continued to use his Zhen Qi to protect his body. Frenzy Fist, second form. Lin Yi continued to use his martial skill. However, this time, it was still a self-practiced move. He had no intention of attacking the head protector. Kid, are you trying to numb me and then ambush me? The head protector deduced and guessed at Lin Yi's intentions. He guessed that Lin Yi didn't have the confidence to fight him head-on, so he was looking for an opportunity. He was practicing to confuse the head protector and make him lower his guard so that he could ambush him. This was the only thing that the head protector could think of. Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't really use his first 2 forms. What was he playing at? Frenzy Fist, third form. Just as the head protector was thinking, Lin Yi had already activated the 3rd form, Frenzy Fist. Even if Lin Yi had slowed down, the activation of martial skills was about consistency. Only by stacking one move after another and completing it in one go could the power of the last form be exerted to the extreme. Before, Lin Yi directly activated the 5th form, Frenzy Fist and a small Zhen Qi bomb, but it didn't do anything to the head protector. So this time, Lin Yi was ready to give him a more ruthless attack. Of course, if the more ruthless attack didn't work, then Lin Yi could only study the escape route. Frenzy Fist, 4th form. Lin Yi's 4th form, Frenzy Fist, had already been activated. The head protector frowned and said, "You've already used 4 moves. There's still the last move. If you don't use it, then it's considered as you using it." He had to remind Lin Yi. If Lin Yi finished the 5th form and said that he was just warming up and didn't hit him, so it didn't count as a move, then the head protector would definitely go crazy. "Oh, I know, Frenzy Fist, 5th form." As Lin Yi spoke, he activated the 5th form of Frenzy Fist, and at this moment, Lin Yi's figure moved. The head protector's eyes narrowed, and a sharp glint flashed across his eyes. He sneered in his heart. Sure enough, the previous 4 moves were all feints, And the last move was the ultimate move that he was waiting to unleash. However, so what if it was an ultimate move? Even if the previous 4 moves were all feints, and Lin Yi had also rested for a long time before activating this final move, in the head protector's eyes, Lin Yi was only a crossbow with a strong bow. According to the descriptions of Tagunlong and Shiraz, Lin Yi must have been seriously injured by the 5th protector's kick. However, even if he had guessed Lin Yi's intentions, the head protector still stood there casually. He was confident that with his true chi protection, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to hurt him at all. As long as he could withstand this move from Lin Yi would obediently hand over the treasure in his hands, and the head protector wouldn't have to do anything. Bang bang. As Lin Yi's figure shuttled back and forth, there were 2 loud sounds. It was the true chi bomb and the 5th form of Frenzy Fist, combined with the Firebolt God's Bullet to form an even more powerful 11th form. A mouthful of blood spurted from the head protector's mouth. He looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. He couldn't believe that he was actually injured by a small mid-earth class master. To be able to break through his true chi protection, even an ordinary master of the same level would have some difficulty. However, Lin Yi had successfully broken through his true chi protection, and actually injured him. After Lin Yi's attack, he didn't stop. Instead, he used the 5th form of Forest Phantom Thousand Changes again. 2 fists turned into 10 fists, and all of them landed solidly on the head protector's chest that Lin Yi's true chi bomb had broken open. Although these 10 fists weren't as powerful as the 5th form of Frenzy Fist combined with the Firebolt God's Bullet, the Frenzy Fist could only display its great power when it was completed in one go. If it was used alone, it might not be as effective as the Forest Phantom Thousand Changes. Chapter 22:35. After the 10 punches, Lin Yi looked at the Great Guardian, who had recovered from his shock. He immediately turned around and quickly retreated. He didn't want to have a direct confrontation with the Great Guardian. The frenzied Fire Fist combined with the flaming God Bombs had already injured the Great Guardian. The 10 punches that followed made the blood in his chest rise, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. However, this kind of injury was only a minor one. It really couldn't hurt the Great Guardian. Even so, the Great Guardian's face was very gloomy. He raised his hand and used his sleeve to wipe off the blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked at Lin Yi coldly. Very good, you have some skills. However, it's just Hey, old thing, it doesn't feel good, does it? Lin Yi sneered at the Great Guardian, but his mind was racing. Can I take this opportunity to escape? What are the chances of success? Humph, your last move, if I'm not wrong, should be 3 moves. The Great Guardian wasn't stupid. After a careful analysis, he could see that when Lin Yi attacked, he actually used 3 moves. Lin Yi frowned slightly. This Great Guardian wasn't stupid either. He could actually separate the Vital Energy Bomb, the Frenzied Fire Fist, and the ever-changing Wood Forest. Can't I use them at the same time? All right, I won't argue with you about this. The Great Guardian said coldly. I'm finished with your moves. Shouldn't you hand over the item with both hands? The item. I've said it before. If you want it, come and get it yourself. Lin Yi said. What? You didn't keep your word. Are you trying to cheat me? The Great Guardian's face suddenly became ugly. Cheat? When did I cheat you? Old thing, I've never treated you as a human. I only treated you as an old dog. Lin Yi laughed and secretly gave Sun Jingyi a look, asking her and Sky Thunder Pig to find a chance to escape. Just now, Lin Yi had used all of his strength, and it could be said that he had used all of his skills, but he still could not do anything to the Great Guardian. Although the Zhen Qi bomb had not been completely compressed, Lin Yi did not have the time to do anything to this old thing. The gap in strength between him and a heaven stage expert was not something that could be made up for with a few exquisite martial skills and ordinary trump cards. Good, very good. Since that's the case, then don't blame this old man for being impolite. The head protector was furious. Yes, he was truly furious. He was angry that Lin Yi did not keep his word and actually went back on his word. He was a master who came from that place and often boasted that he was the orthodox of the martial arts world. Even when he destroyed the sects there, he found a high-sounding excuse. So when he promised Lin Yi 5 moves, he gave Lin Yi 5 moves. But he did not expect a junior to dare to do this to him. When he said this, his ashen face surged with a trace of blood, filled with sharp killing intent. Although Sun Jingyi did not want to abandon Lin Yi and escape, but she had no choice but to do so. Didn't Lin Yi risk his life to protect this small box in her arms? If this small box was snatched away, then all of Lin Yi's efforts would be wasted. And if she stayed here, she would definitely become Lin Yi's burden. So, under Lin Yi's hint, Sun Jingyi turned around and wanted to escape. Want to run? Stay behind together. The head protector was really angry. Previously, he had not intended to hurt Sun Jingyi. He had planned to capture her and let the higher-ups deal with her. However, if Sun Jingyi ran away, he might have to destroy a flower and injure Sun Jingyi first. After the head protector finished speaking, his eyes instantly narrowed. A strong and powerful vital energy emerged from his body. His body also turned into an afterimage, pressing towards Sun Jingyi with an oppressive pressure. The 8 trigrams robe on his body swelled up under the effect of the vital energy and emitted a buzzing sound. It was obvious that he was really angry and did not hold back at all. Lin Yi had not expected that the head protector would give up on him and directly attack the escaping Sun Jingyi. He could not help but frown. It seemed that his plan was wrong. No matter how angry the head protector was, he did not lose his composure and still remembered Lin Yi's purpose. It seemed that his plan to let Sun Jingyi escape alone during the chaos would not work. The head protector did not fall for Lin Yi's trick at all. His eyes were fixed on the box in Sun Jingyi's arms, followed by the 2 spiritual beast essence cores on Lin Yi's body. The spiritual beast essence cores were just a small toy for Tagan Dragon to show off. It did not matter whether he had it or not. As long as he got this box and handed it over to that place, it would probably be very easy to get a few spiritual beast essence cores as a reward. Lin Yi didn't have a choice. He had no choice but to take it head-on. He tapped his feet on the ground, and with a sharp burst of energy, his body turned into a blur of lightning as he stood in front of Jingyi. Fortunately, Lin Yi had experience as an assassin in the past. Relying on his exquisite footwork, he was not weaker than the head protector in front of him. However, although Lin Yi managed to block it, 2 muffled bangs were heard from Lin Yi's chest and abdomen. Lin Yi's entire body was sent flying by the head protector and he landed heavily on the ground. Brat, I haven't even used my martial arts yet. Are you already so weak? The head protector stared coldly at Lin Yi on the ground and said, An expert in the early stage of heaven rank only has this much strength. Lin Yi stood up from the ground. To be honest, the head protector's move without using any martial art skills was not inferior to the 5th protector's 10th martial art skill yesterday. However, Lin Yi did not resist. Instead, he used all his true qi to protect his body. When he was sent flying, he entered the space of the jade pendant to quickly heal his injuries. Even so, Lin Yi knew that he could not last long. Therefore, Lin Yi had to think of a way. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would die here today. Glancing at Sun Jingyi who was holding the box, Lin Yi had a rough idea of what to do. When Sun Jingyi was escaping, the head protector attacked Sun Jingyi. It could be seen that the head protector's main target was the box in Sun Jingyi's arms. If Lin Yi took the box in Sun Jingyi's hands and ran all the way to the Great Fire Lion's cave, what were the chances of him winning? Although Lin Yi had exquisite footwork, Lin Yi was not 100% sure that he could escape. However, what if he gritted his teeth and did not care about the price? He would leave his back to the head protector and ignore his attacks. As long as he held his breath and continued to use the true qi in the space of the jade pendant to heal his injuries, he would not defend and run all the way. In this case, the head protector's chances had become 50-50. As long as Lin Yi did not fall and kept running, he could hold on until he reached the Great Fire Lion's cave. However, if the head protector could not catch Lin Yi, could he turn around and deal with Sun Jingyi? Chapter 22:36. Although the guard had said that according to the rules, the spirit beasts couldn't go to the upper ridges, but the middle ridges were the spirit beasts' territory. If humans came to the middle ridges, would the spirit beasts let them go? Thinking of this, Lin Yi took a deep breath and prepared to run. But the guard seemed to have seen through Lin Yi's thoughts and said coldly, "Kid, don't even think about running. If you dare to run, I'll kill your female companion first and then go after you." The guard saw through Lin Yi's fear and directly threatened him. Despicable. Lin Yi spat out 2 words. He didn't think that the guard would see through his plan. But although Lin Yi was unhappy, there was nothing he could do. Regardless of whether the guard was telling the truth or not, Lin Yi didn't dare to try. A man with a small heart is not a gentleman. A man with venom is not a gentleman. The guard said disapprovingly, I originally wanted to leave your corpse intact, but you've made me lose my patience. Kid, you can go die now. The guard raised his hand and a soft whip appeared in his hand. Weapon. Lin Yi took a deep breath. He had heard that the Sky-class martial skills could be used with a weapon, greatly increasing the power. But Lin Yi had never seen it before. He didn't think that the first time he would see it would be here. And before, the guard's attack without any martial skills was already too much for Lin Yi to handle. Although Lin Yi's injuries were mostly healed, he didn't think that this guy would directly take out a weapon. Lin Yi's mouth twitched. His luck was really bad. Ever since he arrived at the Wulonghout Mountains, he had lost again and again. Could it be that his luck was too good before, and his luck had been so good that it had been used up during the Hidden House meeting? Against an Earth-class mid-phase, do I still need a weapon? Lin Yi took a deep breath. Humph. The head guard didn't pay attention to Lin Yi. He could see that the boy in front of him was very cunning and wouldn't let go of any opportunity to turn the tables. Since that was the case, he didn't hold back. He suddenly raised the whip, which was suddenly wrapped in a layer of Xianxia qi, and quickly lashed at Lin Yi. Furious sea raging waves. First style. A majestic aura smashed towards Lin Yi. Lin Yi was suddenly shocked and did not dare to meet it. He carried Sun Jingyi who was behind him and operated his inner force cultivation method to protect himself and Sun Jingyi with his true qi. He quickly turned his feet and dodged to the side. Boom! The whip lashed at the place where Lin Yi had just been standing. The huge force smashed into the cyan brick, and made a loud sound. The cyan brick was also sent flying by the huge force, and it broke into pieces. The original place where the cyan brick had been was now a huge pit. Even though Lin Yi had dodged fast enough, he still staggered from the force of the whip. The clothes on his right arm were torn, and there was a deep cut on his arm, revealing the bone. It was a mess of flesh and blood. Too strong. That was the only thought in Lin Yi's mind. He had already dodged it, and it was under the situation where he was protected by Zhen Qi, but the force of the whip had still caused him to suffer such a serious injury. What if he had been hit by the whip? Perhaps it was as the Great Guardian said. If he had been hit, it would have been a fatal blow, and he would have stayed here forever. Dust filled the air. Feeling that his right arm had almost lost all feeling, Lin Yi's face turned serious. A heaven-rank early-stage expert. Such a terrifying ability. It was unknown how many times stronger than Lin Yi's earth-rank middle stage. This made Lin Yi feel even more bitter in his heart. You dodged fast. The Great Guardian sneered. That move just now, he did not aim at all. It was just a random attack. He did not care about it and only said mockingly, "This old man will also play a game with you. This old man will whip you 5 times. If you can block it, then this old man will let you go. How about it?" The corner of Lin Yi's mouth twitched. This old thing obviously wanted to play a monkey. That was only the first style of martial arts. With the activation of his heaven-rank early-stage strength and the soft whip weapon, it had already released a shocking power. If this guy used his strongest move, would he still be alive? Not to mention 5 moves, Lin Yi might not be able to dodge another one. All right. It's a deal. Although he knew that this old thing was playing with him, at this time, he had no choice but to bite the bullet. Don't die too quickly, that would be too boring. The Great Guardian retracted his soft whip and raised his head to look at Lin Yi with a sinister smile. His right hand suddenly raised again, his body moved slightly, and he shouted, "Raging waves of the sea, 11th style." Fuck. Hearing the Great Guardian's shout, Lin Yi was so angry that he almost spat out blood. Just now it was the first style, and now it was the 11th style? One had to know that the strongest martial arts of a heaven-rank early-stage expert was probably the 11th style. This guy clearly wanted to take his life in one move. Subconsciously, the first thought that came to Lin Yi's mind was to run. This thing couldn't be blocked head-on. If he did, he would definitely die. Therefore, Lin Yi once again used that miraculous footwork. However, he didn't expect that this time, the Great Guardian seemed to want to kill him. That soft whip was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. No matter where Lin Yi dodged, it would sweep there, not giving Lin Yi any chance to hide. Looking at the sharp killing intent in the Great Guardian's eyes, Lin Yi was infuriated. "Old thing, wait for this young master to make a comeback. I'll kill you first." In this battle, Lin Yi was too aggrieved. Fighting with someone who was several times stronger than him, the strength of both sides was simply unequal. Even if Lin Yi used all his skills, he couldn't do anything to the guy in front of him. However, Lin Yi had no room to turn back at this time. He desperately picked up Sun Jingyi and forcefully threw her into the air. He didn't care where he could throw Sun Jingyi to. He couldn't dodge this whip, so he could only take it head-on. He estimated that if he took a hit, he wouldn't die immediately. But it was hard to say for Sun Jingyi. Even if she didn't die after being whipped, she wouldn't be any better. Bang! Just at the moment when Lin Yi threw Sun Jingyi, the whip also hit his face and directly hit Lin Yi's chest. Lin Yi felt a sweetness in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. He staggered back 2 steps and fell to the ground with a pale face. The power of this whip was too strong. Even though Lin Yi had used enough true qi to protect his body, he already felt that all the ribs in his chest were broken, and more than half of his internal organs were injured. If he hadn't used the momentum of landing to divert some of the force to the green bricks under his feet, his injuries would probably have been more serious. Even so, the green bricks under Lin Yi's feet had already been shattered by Lin Yi. Chapter 22:37. It was just that the injury was too serious and couldn't be healed in a short time. If it wasn't for the fact that Lin Yi was still hanging on to his last breath, any other practitioner would have died in an instant. Fortunately, Lin Yi had the Jade Space as a rescue kit, allowing Lin Yi to heal his injuries at any time. Not dead. The guard was a little surprised. This Earth-class mid-stage master in front of him really made him look at him in a new light. Whether it was the strength of his moves or the endurance of his injuries, he was much stronger than other masters of the same level. However, the more this kind of person was, the heavier the guard's killing intent was. Once this person grew up, he would definitely hold a grudge and seek revenge. There seemed to be a few levels between Earth-class mid-stage and Heaven-class early stage, but Lin Yi was such a young Earth-class mid-stage. Who could guarantee that he wouldn't step into Heaven-class within a few years? Once Lin Yi stepped into Heaven-class, then the guard's advantage would be gone. If Lin Yi could still fight above his level, then the guard's life would be taken sooner or later. So, in order to prevent this situation from happening, the guard decided to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. No matter what, he had to kill Lin Yi. Sun Jingyi looked at the miserable Lin Yi on the ground. Her heart felt like it was smashed by a sledgehammer. Heartache, regret. She really regretted coming here. She shouldn't have explored her parents' secret. She shouldn't have brought Lin Yi along. In order to protect her, he didn't hesitate to lose his life. How could she repay him? However, Sun Jingyi knew that if Lin Yi died, the next one would be her. Forget it, I can't repay you in this life. But in the next life, I will definitely repay you. In the next life, I will be your lover, completely your lover. Crystal tears flowed out of Sun Jingyi's eyes. She looked at the dying Lin Yi on the ground, but there was nothing she could do. Of course not dead. Lin Yi spat out a mouthful of blood. Old thing, which sect are you from? Let me die. Let me die in peace. I'll find you for revenge in my next life. What? Trying to get information out of me? The head protector was stunned. He did not expect Lin Yi to ask such a question before he died. Of course. Otherwise, I won't be able to die in peace. Lin Yi was simply stalling for time. His internal injuries were too severe, so Lin Yi had to seize the time to recover. I'm sorry, but you can only die with everlasting regret. Even at this moment, the Great Protector still couldn't reveal the power behind him. Although it wasn't a big secret on a certain level, there were some things that were tacitly understood. All right, then I won't ask any more. What exactly is this thing that you want to snatch? What's it used for? Lin Yi changed the topic. You don't know? The head guard was stunned. He hadn't expected Lin Yi's questions to be so baffling. Do I need to ask you if I already know? Lin Yi retorted. If you don't know, then how do you know about this place? Who sent you here? The Great Protector was puzzled. He had originally thought that Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi would definitely know what that treasure was and what it was used for. Who would have thought that they didn't know? It was said that when a person was on the verge of death, his words were always kind. No matter how stupid Lin Yi was, he knew that he didn't have long to live. Although he wasn't dead yet, it was only a matter of time before he died. Did that mean that Lin Yi really didn't know what that thing was used for? We have a map. We came here according to the map, Lin Yi said straightforwardly. So that's how it is. Where did the map come from? A sharp light flashed in the eyes of the head guard. It was better not to know. The fewer people who knew the true use of this treasure, the better. Originally, he thought that the two people in front of him had some relationship with the two people they were looking for. The head guard kept Sun Jingyi alive because he was afraid that the matter of the treasure would spread. He wanted to let the higher-ups investigate the relationship between Sun Jingyi and the two people they were looking for, and how many people knew about the treasure. But now it seemed that it was no longer necessary. Since these two people didn't know, then they could die. Once they were dead, the secret of the treasure would not be revealed to the outside world. Tell me first, what's in that box? Lin Yi asked. Bargaining with me? The head guard smiled coldly. If that's the case, you don't need to say anything. Go to hell. After saying that, the head guard raised the whip in his right hand again. A strong green true qi once again filled the whip's body. The next moment, the whip burst out and swept towards Lin Yi's head. Lin Yi's heart trembled. If this whip swept down and smashed his head, even the art of dragon mastery wouldn't be able to repair it. He was shocked and terrified. He subconsciously rolled to the side, and his whole person was extremely embarrassed. However, the whip seemed to have eyes. It swept in the direction that Lin Yi rolled to. Seeing that the whip was about to hit Lin Yi, Sun Jingyi closed her eyes subconsciously. But then she heard a loud clang. It was the sound of two weapons colliding. A black iron rod blocked the whip. When the whip and rod collided, there was a huge energy collision. A red and a green true qi suddenly exploded at the point where the rod and rod met. The strong energy field directly shook Lin Yi a few meters away. However, it was only the aftermath of the collision of the two true qi that affected Lin Yi. It didn't hurt Lin Yi much. Instead, with the push of the aftermath, Lin Yi was pushed away from the center of the collision. This old man gave you the map. What do you want? An old man with disheveled hair and tattered clothes carried a black iron rod in his hand. He stood majestically at the place where Lin Yi was lying. He looked at the head guard with a cold smile. The aura on his body was stronger than the head guard's. Master! Lin Yi, who had a new lease of life, saw the old man in front of him who saved his life at a critical moment. He couldn't help but call out these two words. Quickly take you and hide. Leave this to Master. This old man was the heaven-ranked weirdo that Lin Yi met after the Ice Palace trial. He didn't expect to meet him here. Moreover, it was the most dangerous moment. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was a little worried. Although this cheap master of his had the strength of the peak late stage of heaven-ranked, he didn't seem to be very smart. He wouldn't run away after a few hits, right? Then he and Sun Jingyi would be in danger again. Hearing the way the weirdo called Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi, a trace of doubt flashed across the head guard's eyes. You? Weren't these the names of those two people? Was this old thing's mental illness acting up again? Or were these two juniors in front of him the two people who had disguised themselves? Chapter 22:38. Just when things were about to succeed, someone suddenly appeared out of nowhere. This old thing occasionally appeared in the upper range of the Wulonghout mountain range. It wasn't that the Great Guardian didn't know about him, but he knew him quite well. This was because the heaven-ranked eccentric was also one of the people he was responsible for monitoring. However, this old thing was crazy and his strength was terrifying. He had reached the peak of the world's martial arts, the peak of the heaven-ranked late stage. Therefore, the Great Guardian wouldn't easily provoke him and let him walk around the mountain range. In any case, this person was stupid. Although he had the strength of the peak of the heaven-ranked late stage, he didn't have much vigilance. He didn't notice that he was being monitored by the Great Guardian. As for finding a few more people to capture this old thing, it wasn't that the Great Guardian didn't think about it. The key was that this guy's martial arts were very strong. Not to mention that it would be troublesome to capture him. Even if he was captured, he probably wouldn't be able to get any information out of him. This person's words were incoherent and didn't have a single point. It was better to let him wander around in the mountain range. If that thing was really hidden by him, maybe one day he would remember it and find it. Then the Great Guardian would be able to sit back and enjoy the fruits of his labor. However, this guy's appearance today wasn't a good time. This made the Great Guardian very depressed. This old thing clearly wanted to stand up for Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi, forcing the Great Guardian to have no choice but to confront him head-on. Although the Great Guardian was the direct disciple of that place and was stronger than ordinary experts of the same level, This old thing's strength was several levels higher than his, making him feel uncertain. Old thing, this has nothing to do with you. What are you doing here? The great guardian asked. Master will help you take revenge. You take and leave first. There's a cave over there. Wait for me there. The heaven-ranked eccentric said and laughed strangely. He raised the black iron rod in his hand and smashed it towards the great guardian. A huge amount of true chi wrapped around the black iron rod and smashed it straight towards the great guardian's head. The great guardian's expression changed slightly. He had no choice but to wave his long whip to meet the attack. However, what made him relieved was that this old thing didn't use any martial arts and completely relied on true chi to control the weapon. This made the great guardian relax. Boom! The whip and rod intertwined once again, making a loud sound. The powerful true chi collided and created a huge explosion. For a moment, sand and stones flew everywhere. What a strong power! Lin Yi used this time to heal most of his injuries. Of course, it was only a part of it. His meridians and organs were healed, but that was only enough to keep him from dying. His ribs were still broken, but that wasn't important. He just looked a little worse for wear. Since the great guardian was to be to help, to Lin Ea to help. Since Lin of, he the guardian had to said. Lin guardian was to say. Of the Lin of and Yang of the guardian of the great guardian too was to stage. Lin Yi needed a quiet place to heal his wounds as well. Those few whips from the protector had given him heavy injuries, and if he didn't heal himself quickly, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Naturally, he didn't dare to heal his injuries on the spot. He was too close to the great protector. If this old dog took advantage of the fact that his cheap master wasn't prepared and attacked him, then he would be finished. Sure enough, Lin Yi saw a cave in the direction the heaven-rank eccentric was pointing. There were some simple household utensils and traces of a bonfire in the cave. It seemed that this was where the heaven-rank eccentric lived. Come to think of it, the heaven-ranked eccentric should have come here to wait for his disciple after they parted ways. Then today, he should have sensed the true energy fluctuations brought about by the great guardian's whips, so he hurried over. Are you okay? Lin Yi asked after putting Sun Jingyi down. I'm fine. I just scratched my arm. It's just a superficial wound. Sun Jingyi shook her head. Are you okay? If you can't, I can heal you. When Sun Jingyi said this, it was a struggle in her heart. She had only practiced the first level of the Sun family's mental cultivation method. In other words, if she stagnated, then she could only heal one person for the rest of her life. If she healed Lin Yi, then she couldn't heal anyone else. As for her relationship with Lin Yi, it was self-evident from now on. However, Sun Jingyi saw that Lin Yi's injuries were so serious, much more serious than yesterday. His chest was dented by the great protector. In her opinion, even if Lin Yi could heal himself, could he survive such a serious injury alone? Therefore, Sun Jingyi made this suggestion. Oh! If you heal me, what about the future? Lin Yi was slightly stunned after listening to Sun Jingyi's words, then asked with a smile. I don't care about the future. I just don't want anything to happen to you. Sun Jingyi said solemnly. Don't worry, it's not that serious. I can handle it myself. Lin Yi smiled. He didn't expect Sun Jingyi to make up her mind to take this step. His heart was very comforted. It seemed that this girl was loyal. He didn't come out with her for nothing. And, if you can't do it, please tell me. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi's injury and was a little worried. Lin Yi nodded and didn't say much. He closed his eyes and ran the second level of the Art of Dragon Mastery. He quickly healed his injury. He had to recover as soon as possible. Although there was a master at the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage helping him fight, Lin Yi was still worried. This master was a little unreliable. If he ran away in the middle of the fight and the guard came looking for him, he and Sun Jingyi would be unlucky again. Therefore, the most important thing was to heal his injury first and then see if his master killed the guard. If he did, then he would be relieved. Sun Jingyi knew that Lin Yi was healing and didn't dare to disturb him. She just sat quietly and carefully observed Lin Yi's movements. When she saw Lin Yi's face gradually become ruddy, and the sunken ribs in his chest were slowly recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye, Sun Jingyi sighed in amazement at Lin Yi's magic and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Yi was actually more powerful than the Sun family's mental cultivation method. Such a serious injury recovered so easily? Didn't that mean that as long as Lin Yi was breathing, he wouldn't die? Thinking of this situation, Sun Jingyi was shocked. Wasn't this too powerful? Although she more or less knew some of Lin Yi's magic, seeing it with her own eyes at this moment, Sun Jingyi was still shocked. Chapter 2239. His physical strength had recovered to its peak, but he wasn't happy at all. Instead, he was worried. Why hasn't Master returned yet? The Great Protector was a Heaven Rank Initial Stage Master, while his Master was a Heaven Rank Late Stage Master. The gap between the two was huge. To put it bluntly, it was similar to the previous battle between Lin Yi and the Great Protector. They weren't on the same level at all. It was a one-sided battle. However, it had been half an hour, and his master still hadn't finished the battle? Lin Yi was a little worried. A Heaven Rank Late Stage Master shouldn't be that hard to kill a Heaven Rank Initial Stage Master, right? Back then, when Miss Rock Candy was in the Hidden Tang family, she was very overbearing. Jingyi, stay here. Don't go out. I'll go see Master. Lin Yi hesitated for a moment and said, He is the one who gave you the map? Sun Jingyi also guessed the identity of the Heaven Rank eccentric. And it's him. It's been half an hour and he still hasn't returned. I'm afraid something happened to him. Lin Yi nodded and said seriously. Then, be careful. Sun Jingyi originally wanted to go with him, but she suddenly thought that it would be a waste of time. Instead, she would become a burden, so she simply gave up on the idea. After I go, if the situation isn't right, I'll let out a long whistle. At that time, you take the Skybolt Pig down the mountain and take refuge in the Great Flame Lion's cave. Lin Yi said. This. Sun Jingyi really didn't want to run alone. I can only run if you run. Don't worry, I'll definitely go back. I'm just afraid that I won't be able to heal myself. I'll have to rely on you. Lin Yi said. And Sun Jingyi's face was slightly red, but she agreed. Indeed, if she was here, she wouldn't be able to help Lin Yi. Instead, she would make him afraid and become his burden. This wasn't the time to be emotional, so Sun Jingyi finally agreed. From the moment Lin Yi walked out of the cave, he began to compress a chi bomb. Now that Lin Yi's physical strength had returned to its peak, Lin Yi was ready to compress a bigger chi bomb. Of course, after Lin Yi left the cave, he didn't walk very fast. In fact, it could be said that he was very slow. This was because Lin Yi was very careful with every step he took. He was always checking the surroundings and feeling the changes in the jade space. If the jade space emitted a weak warning signal, Lin Yi would give Sun Jingyi an advance warning. Lin Yi walked all the way to the hall at the top, but there wasn't any danger. As he walked closer, he heard sounds. It seemed that the battle between his heaven-ranked strange master and the great guardian was not over yet. This made Lin Yi feel a little strange. The difference in strength between the two was so obvious. Why hadn't the battle ended after more than half an hour? Could it be that there were other new enemies joining in? Or did this great guardian have the same ability as him to fight against enemies of a higher level? However, even if he had the ability to fight against enemies of a higher level, wasn't this ability a little too strong? An early-stage heaven rank could compete with a peak late-stage heaven rank master, eh? Thinking of this, Lin Yi quickened his pace and finally arrived at the top of the mountain again. However, he saw the strange man and the great guardian fighting inextricably. The two people were still the same, and there were no new enemies joining the battle. In other words, the great guardian had the ability to fight against a peak late-stage heaven rank master? However, after watching for a while, Lin Yi found something unusual and couldn't help but frown. That great guardian was indeed very powerful. He was definitely much more powerful than old Master Zhao and those hidden families' heaven rank masters. But he definitely didn't have the ability to fight against a peak late-stage heaven rank master. At this moment, he was able to fight evenly with the heaven-ranked eccentric because although the heaven-ranked eccentric strength was there, he did not know how to use martial skills. He did not know whether he had forgotten or simply did not think of using them. He simply poured his true chi into the black iron rod in his hand to resist the great guardian's whip. In this way, one side was completely using true chi to fight head-on, while the other side was relying on exquisite martial skills to make up for a lot of the gap and shortcomings of the great guardian. However, the most important thing was that there seemed to be some problems with the strange man's mind. His mind wasn't bright, and it also affected his reaction speed and moves. On the other side, the great guardian had a very clear method. One move after another, it was continuous. As soon as the first move ended, the next move would follow. But looking at the strange man, it was completely random. There was no method to speak of, and he hit wherever he wanted. As he continued to watch, Lin Yi shook his head again and again. In just a short while, the strange man had already been hit. If it wasn't for his tyrannical strength, he would have been defeated by the Great Guardian long ago and wouldn't have been able to last until now. Fortunately, his foundation was thick and his strength was there. For a moment, although he was stretched, he wouldn't be defeated. However, as a bystander, Lin Yi was anxious in his heart. If this went on, it definitely wouldn't work. If this went on, the strange man would definitely lose. Although he was an expert with the strength of a peak late-stage heaven rank master, he didn't have any tactics or martial arts. He relied entirely on his tyrannical strength to fight head-on. Now that he was in danger, if the Great Guardian found a flaw in opportunity, it wasn't impossible to seriously injure him or even kill him. And the Great Guardian obviously saw this. He didn't risk his life fighting the strange man. Instead, he launched sneak attacks while fighting. At the same time, he looked for the strange man's weakness and opening, preparing to give him a fatal blow when he was unprepared. The Great Guardian had already seen Lin Yi's return, but he didn't care at all. In his eyes, Lin Yi was a dead man. Not to mention that he had already been seriously injured. Even if he hadn't, his moves wouldn't have any effect on the Great Guardian. Thus, he wasn't afraid that Lin Yi would help. In a battle between heaven rank experts, an earth rank expert wouldn't be helping, but would be a hindrance. If Lin Yi participated, the strange man would have to protect him. At that time, it would give the Great Guardian an opportunity to attack. The Great Guardian believed that Lin Yi wasn't stupid enough to rashly participate in a battle of this level. Thus, he continued to fight the heaven rank eccentric fearlessly. The apprehension and fear he had felt when they first fought had long since been thrown out of the 9 heavens. In his opinion, defeating or even killing the heaven rank eccentric was only a matter of time. And Lin Yi taking the initiative to come back was simply a good thing. After killing the strange man, he didn't need to look for Lin Yi anymore. This little thing had come back to die. Chapter 2240. It was clear that the heaven rank monster could get rid of the Great Guardian, but he had mental issues. It was already not easy for him to fight to a draw. However, this draw was relative. It wouldn't be long before the heaven rank monster would be suppressed by the Great Guardian. Lin Yi's guess was soon confirmed. Although the heaven rank monster wouldn't be defeated for a while, it was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Lin Yi had to speed up the compression of the energy bomb. If he could gather all the true qi in his body to compress an energy bomb, then the power would be quite terrifying. When he fought with Ma Zhu, his strength was far from what it was now. At that time, gathering all the strength in his body to create an energy bomb was already quite amazing. If he could compress all the energy in his body to create an energy bomb, then the power would probably be even more amazing. To deal with this Great Guardian, Lin Yi didn't plan to hold back. He would use as much as he could, even if his meridians were damaged. Anyway, he still had the Skybolt pig. If not, the little fire lion and the lioness could be used as backup. Even if they were gone, there was still Sun Jingyi, the lover who could heal, so Lin Yi didn't have any worries. Looking at the heaven rank monster who was being played around by him, the Great Guardian sneered in his heart. So what if you're a peak late-stage heaven rank expert? You've lost your mind. Didn't you still become my defeated opponent? The Great Protector's sneak attacks were successful again and again. Even though the heaven-ranked eccentric was very strong, he had suffered some injuries at this time. His movements had become somewhat sluggish, especially his legs, which had been repeatedly whipped by the Great Protector. It was fine at first, but after a while, the eccentric's legs were injured and his movement speed was naturally affected. Although Lin Yi was worried, he couldn't act rashly. His energy bomb had been compressed for so long, and he had only compressed half of it. He was now a mid-stage Earth rank expert. If he wanted to compress all the true qi in his body into one, it would naturally take a lot more time than before. So Lin Yi could only watch the heaven rank monster suffer setbacks. But there was no other way. Old madman, go to hell. The Great Guardian's right hand shook, and the whip once again swept towards the strange man's legs. This was the weakness he had found. The heaven rank freak should have forgotten his martial arts and was fighting without any technique. He was completely relying on his own bravery, so if his legs were injured or even broken, it would affect his movements. In his eyes, he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. The strange heaven rank man didn't think too much about it. He raised his black iron rod to block the guard's whip, but he didn't know that it was just a feint. The whip didn't meet the black iron rod head-on. Instead, it lightly rose, bypassed his block, and fiercely lashed at his legs from another direction. Raging waves of the raging sea, the 12th move. This move. The head protector used all of his power, not even hesitating to use the 12th form of the raging waves of the raging sea, which wasted his physical strength. As a heaven rank initial stage expert, he could activate the 12th form of the martial technique. This was a very impressive thing, but considering his identity and the fact that he came from that place, it was not surprising at all. "Master, be careful!" Lin Yi couldn't help but shout when he saw this scene. But his shout was already too late. Even if it was just a heaven rank initial stage expert, how fast was he? Lin Yi saw through his intentions and tried to warn him, but it was already too late. The strange heaven rank man's reaction speed was poor. When he heard Lin Yi's words, he hesitated for a moment before reacting. As a result, he was hit by the Great Guardian. Bang! A loud sound was heard. The strange heaven rank man's leg burst into a mist of blood. The Great Guardian's raging waves of the raging sea, which could topple mountains and overturn the seas, affected Lin Yi, who was far away. He was swept by the violent and strong true energy, causing his body to sway. He staggered and sat on the ground. Fortunately, Lin Yi was far away, and the Great Guardian's move was directed at the strange heaven rank man. Most of the force hit the strange heaven rank man, and Lin Yi wasn't affected much. However, the strange heaven rank man wasn't so good. He knelt on the ground from this blow and let out an unwilling scream and roar. "How is it? Isn't it great, old madman? This is just the beginning." The Great Guardian's confidence swelled to the extreme after his attack succeeded. "Even if you are a heaven rank late stage expert, I can still grind you to death. With my current physical state, I can at least activate the 12th form of raging waves of the raging sea 5 more times. Can you take these 5 times? Humph." Although the strange heaven rank man's mind was damaged, he wouldn't show any weakness in front of his enemies. He stood up shakily from the ground and angrily waved the black iron rod towards the Great Guardian's face. If it weren't for the fact that the 12th move required some time to charge up, the guard really wanted to use the 12th move of the raging seas and raging waves to beat this old madman so hard that he couldn't even crawl back up. Raging waves of the raging sea. 11th form. He couldn't activate the 12th form consecutively, but he could use it together with the 11th form. One fast and one slow. He could still kill the strange heaven rank man. Pa! The strange heaven rank man was already injured and his lower body was unstable. The black iron rod in his hand was wrapped by the Great Guardian's whip. With a shake, he was thrown away and landed heavily on the ground. Lin Yi was extremely anxious. The previous 12th form of raging waves of the raging sea was the key to victory. The strange heaven rank man's legs were completely injured. Although he could still stand up with difficulty, Lin Yi could see that the strange heaven rank man was forcing himself to stand up. He reckoned that the bones in his legs were already broken. If this went on, the strange heaven rank man wouldn't be able to last more than a few moves and would be defeated. Think about it, if an expert lost his legs, could he still be called an expert? If it was a normal peak late-stage heaven rank expert, there might be other ways, but this strange heaven rank man with mental problems could only be beaten up without his legs. However, although Lin Yi was anxious, his true energy bomb had only been compressed by 2/3. There was still a third of true energy that hadn't been compressed. Lin Yi didn't dare and couldn't act rashly. If this attack didn't have any effect on the Great Guardian, then the master and disciple pair would really be buried here. Thinking of this, Lin Yi hesitated for a moment, but he still took out a small bottle, poured out a pill and threw it directly into his mouth. Chapter 2241. What Lin Yi lacked now was time. As long as he sped up the speed of his mental cultivation method, the speed of compressing true qi would also increase. Lin Yi hadn't eaten it before because he was reluctant to use it. He wouldn't use it easily unless it was a life-and-death situation. Although this extreme energy golden pill was only a first-grade elixir, with Han Jingjing's current level of alchemy, she could completely refine it in batches. However, the reason why Lin Yi treasured it was not because it was difficult to refine, but because one of the ingredients in this elixir was very precious. Of course, this precious was relative. For the hidden Tang family, it might not be much, but for Lin Yi, it was precious. It was because this medicinal ingredient was monopolized by the Heavenly Elixir sect. The medicinal ingredients that flowed out of the market were also dried. There were no seeds, and even old Lin couldn't cultivate them in batches. Relying on the sale of treasures and medicinal ingredients, as well as finished elixirs, was the biggest source of income for the Heavenly Elixir sect. The reason why the Heavenly Elixir sect could continue to grow was also because of this, monopolizing a variety of resources in the cultivation world. Therefore, this extreme energy golden pill was used up, and Lin Yi didn't have any left. If he wanted to get some raw materials for the extreme energy golden pill, Lin Yi couldn't ask the Heavenly Elixir sect directly. Thinking of this, Lin Yi regretted a little. When he exchanged information with Right Coiling Tiger, he should have exchanged for more medicinal ingredients for the extreme energy golden pill. However, at that time, Lin Yi didn't expect that there would be a medicinal ingredient in this first-grade elixir that was monopolized by the Heavenly Elixir sect. When Lin Yi went out this time and sorted out his belongings, he remembered to check the prescription of the extreme energy golden pill. However, he didn't expect that after checking, it would be like this. However, in this situation, no matter how rare this extreme energy golden pill was, he had to eat it. If he didn't eat it, he would die. Raging Waves, 12th Style. Taking advantage of the strange man falling to the ground, the guard had just finished recovering his true chi. Once again, he urged the 12th style, Raging Sea Bite. The soft whip wrapped in green true chi once again mercilessly lashed at the strange man. Lin Yi was anxious, but he didn't stop it at this moment. Instead, he quickly refined the elixir and continued to circulate his inner force cultivation method to compress the true energy bomb. This extreme golden elixir of energy was indeed effective. Lin Yi suddenly discovered that his mental cultivation method's circulation speed had actually been forcibly increased by more than twofold. No wonder it was called extreme golden elixir of energy. It really increased the human body's energy to the limit. Bang! The whip landed on the Heaven Rank Eccentric's body and once again exploded into a thick bloody mist. The Heaven Rank Eccentric let out a blood-curdling screech filled with anger and unwillingness. He staggered as he crawled up from the ground. However, he spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. This time, the Heaven-Ranked Eccentric didn't have time to block the 12th form of the Raging Sea's Raging Waves, and it completely smashed into his body. How could the Heaven-Ranked Eccentric have an easy time? His trembling body swayed on the spot before he could steady himself. His entire face was extremely pale and wretched. Old madman. This taste is not bad, right? Does it feel good? The guard sneered. A dignified peak late phase expert was actually beaten into such a sorry state by a heaven rank early phase cultivator. Ha ha ha. The guard's laughter was very savage. Previously, he didn't expect that he could actually beat the heaven-ranked eccentric into such a sorry state. Humph! The heaven-ranked eccentric's eyes flashed with hatred. Although his entire body was in great pain, he still endured it and stood up. However, the moment he stood up, he suddenly thought of something and turned to look at Lin Yi. He shouted, "Li, why are you back again? Run, run now. Take you down the mountain and run far away. Don't worry about me." Although his mind was a little problematic and his mind wasn't very bright, he could still distinguish between friend and foe. Moreover, he was very clear about his own situation. Although the guard's level was much lower than his, he was not his opponent at all. However, after a long time, he forgot how to activate his Raging Fire Fist and could only use his true chi to resist. Moreover, because his mind wasn't very bright, it made his reaction speed a lot slower. That was why he suffered a big loss and lost in a mess. However, it didn't matter if he lost. He had to let Lin Yi escape. No one will be able to escape. The guard sneered and raised his hand. The whip in his hand once again lashed at the heaven-ranked eccentric. Raging Waves of the Raging Sea, 11th form. The 11th form, Raging Waves of the Raging Sea, and the 12th form, Raging Waves of the Raging Sea were used together. It was a tried and tested magical weapon that allowed the heaven-ranked eccentric to be unable to turn the situation around. Bang! Although the heaven-rank eccentric tried his best to block with the black iron rod in his hand, his stamina consumption was too high and he had suffered serious internal injuries. He simply wasn't a match for the Great Protector and was sent flying once again, landing on the ground with a bang. The severe pain from his chest and the severe physical exhaustion caused the heaven-ranked eccentric's vision to gradually become blurry. He looked at Lin Yi, who was still sitting on the ground like an old monk in meditation, and the guard who raised the whip and sneered. The heaven-ranked eccentric was unwilling. "Disciple, quickly run. What are you dawdling for?" The heaven-ranked eccentric roared at Lin Yi in shock and anger. Lin Yi clenched his teeth. He didn't want to waste any more energy talking. He was about to succeed. He was about to succeed. "Old lunatic, accept your fate." The guard let out a strange cry. He stomped on the ground and flew towards the direction of the heaven-ranked eccentric. He raised the whip in his hand and waved it in the air. With the attitude of a victor, he looked at the heaven-ranked eccentric who was on the verge of death. "With my insignificant heaven-ranked early-stage strength, I actually beat a heaven-ranked late-stage expert like a dog. Haha, if this gets out, it will be a huge joke in the cultivation world." After saying that, the guard prepared to activate the 12th form, Raging Waves of the Raging Sea. He could basically confirm that once this form was activated, even if the heaven-ranked eccentric didn't die, he wouldn't be far from it. Even if there were miraculous pills, it wouldn't be able to save him. When the heaven-ranked eccentric saw that Lin Yi wasn't running, he felt a pain in his heart. He struggled to get up from the ground and prepared to fight with the guard, but he didn't know how useful that would be. "You will get your retribution sooner or later," the heaven-ranked eccentric roared angrily. Chapter 2242. "Master, be careful." At this moment, Lin Yi had completely compressed all the qi in his body into a super energy bomb. He stood up without stopping and shouted at the heaven-ranked monster. Then he said to the guard, "Old dog, eat my move first." Humph. How could the guard pay attention to Lin Yi? He had already experienced Lin Yi's strongest move. It was just so and could only cause slight injuries to him. It wouldn't affect him much at all. This time, he was determined to get rid of the heaven-ranked monster. As long as this move was used, the heaven-ranked monster would have no room to turn the tables. Therefore, he hesitated for a moment but didn't stop. The whip still swept towards the monster, leaving his back to Lin Yi. He was ready to take this move head-on. Although Lin Yi might injure him again, it was worth it compared to getting rid of the heaven-ranked monster in one fell swoop. What made the guard the happiest was that Lin Yi didn't run and even dared to take the opportunity to sneak attack him. Didn't he know what it meant to be a mantis trying to stop a chariot? Looking at the whip lashing towards the heaven-ranked monster, Lin Yi sighed. It seemed that he couldn't change the guard's mind. But it was also good that he let the monster fly. Otherwise, when the energy bomb exploded, the monster would probably be affected. As long as the monster didn't die and still had a breath left, Lin Yi was confident that he could save him. Thinking about it, an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven ranked shouldn't die so easily, right? Thinking of this, Lin Yi's body quickly rushed towards the guard. However, in order to not waste the energy and produce the biggest explosion, Lin Yi risked his life to detonate the energy bomb at close range. Seeing the heaven-ranked monster flying far away, Lin Yi also released the energy bomb in his hand. "Old dog, you're right. You'll have to pay for it sooner or later. I'll send you on your way now. Go to hell." After Lin Yi shouted, his body started to retreat rapidly, and at the place where Lin Yi was standing a moment ago, a figure appeared. There was a deafening explosion. Boom! A thunderous sound boomed in the hall at the peak of the mountain. At this moment, the entire Wulong Haut mountain range was shaking violently. This was the second time that Lin Yi had created a complete Zhen Qi bomb, and he had not expected that the effect would be even greater than the last time. The sound of the explosion was like that of an atomic bomb. In an instant, a huge and terrifying energy was released. A mushroom cloud rose directly from the site of the incident. Green bricks, mud, and debris were all swept up. Sand and pebbles filled the sky. The entire hall seemed to have ceased to exist at this moment. Everything had been reduced to rubble that flew up into the sky. As for the place where the head protector was standing, because of the dust, he could not be seen clearly at all. No one knew what had happened to the head protector. Lin Yi's body. Although he was outside the center of the explosion, Lin Yi had experienced a big explosion before, so he was more experienced than Ma Zhu. But even so, Lin Yi was still heavily injured by the shockwave. Although Lin Yi's injury was not as serious as the last time, it was inevitable that his meridians were broken. However, Lin Yi did not faint. Instead, he looked at the center of the explosion with a pale face. He watched the mushroom cloud formed by the impact of the energy explosion continue to rise into the sky. I wonder if the head protector is dead? This time, it could be said that Lin Yi was betting his life. If the head protector was still alive, then Lin Yi could only blame his bad luck. The heaven rank weirdo had been hit head-on. Because he had no physical strength and was seriously injured, he did not even block and was directly sent flying. His body was far away from the scope of the hall. Although he gritted his teeth and held on, he knew that he could not hold on for long. His internal organs were all shattered, and his meridians were mostly broken. In this situation, no matter how many elixirs he took, it would be impossible to save him. However, he was worried about his disciple's safety, so he raised his head unwillingly. But when he raised his head, he saw a shocking scene. A thunderous sound suddenly came from where the head protector and Lin Yi were. Then, along with the flying sand and stones, a mushroom cloud rose into the sky. The heaven rank weirdo did not know what had happened, but he could guess that it was most likely Lin Yi using some method of mutual destruction. Did this kid bring a nuclear weapon up the mountain? Unable to see the situation over there, the heaven rank weirdo was anxious, but his body could not move at all. The thick smoke finally dispersed. The tremors of the Wulong Haut mountain range had also stopped. The flying sand and pebbles had also been blown away to an unknown place. In the main hall, where the fight had just taken place, a super deep pit had appeared. Although Lin Yi had exhausted all his energy and was seriously injured, he still insisted on walking in the direction of the deep pit. When he arrived at the edge of the deep pit, Lin Yi was very surprised. He was surprised that the head protector actually didn't die under such a huge energy explosion. This guy really had some ability. However, Lin Yi was not worried, because at this moment, the head protector could no longer be called a person. His arms and legs were long gone, and there was a huge hole in his abdomen. His head was also a bloody mess. He was probably hanging on with his true chi, and dying was only a matter of time. Old dog, how do you feel? Very comfortable, right? Lin Yi sneered at the head protector in the deep pit. The head protector looked at Lin Yi, his murky eyes flashing with unwillingness and confusion. He never would have thought that Lin Yi, an Earth rank mid-phase expert, could actually use such a powerful move. What kind of move was this? Although he was confused, shocked and angry, he did not dare to speak. He was afraid that if he opened his mouth, he would spit out true chi and die immediately. He imagined that at this moment, someone would come up to the mountain to save him. If someone from his sect came, he must tell this important news to his sect. This Earth rank mid-phase expert in front of him, no matter what, must be eliminated. Too monstrous, too strong. If he was allowed to grow, the situation of the martial arts world would perhaps undergo earth-shaking changes. This person must not be left alive. A dignified heaven rank early phase expert was beaten like a dog by a small Earth rank mid-phase expert. Does it feel good? Lin Yi looked at the head protector in front of him with satisfaction. Oh right. You are not even comparable to a dog. My dog can trample you to death with one foot. The head protector's chest heaved up and down. He looked at Lin Yi in shock and anger, but did not open his mouth to speak. Chapter 22:43. You. How did you? The guard didn't expect Lin Yi to see through his relationship with the Tagan family and was shocked. It didn't matter if he died, but if it affected the sect's plan, then he would be a sinner for all eternity. Because his brother was still in the sect, he wanted to spread the news. However, the moment he opened his mouth, he spat out the last bit of true chi that was hanging on to his life. The guard's eyes rolled back and he died with everlasting regret. He passed away unwillingly. Lin Yi frowned. He wanted to threaten and bribe the guard to get some useful clues from his mouth, but he didn't expect this old thing to die. But if he died, then so be it. Lin Yi didn't have time to care about him. Right now, Lin Yi was like a crossbow. The only strength he had left in his body was to say those few words. At this moment, after saying those words, Lin Yi collapsed on the ground and used his last bit of strength to shout, "Skybolt Pig! Gigi!" Skybolt Pig jumped out and ran into Lin Yi's arms. Looking at the sudden appearance of Skybolt Pig, Lin Yi was a bit stunned. This little thing was nearby? If he knew it was nearby, Lin Yi wouldn't have shouted for it and wasted so much energy. It must be known that Lin Yi didn't have a trace of true chi in his body, so he could only rely on his physical strength. Of course, what Lin Yi didn't know was that while Sun Jingyi was waiting anxiously in the cave, Lin Yi didn't come back, the Heaven Stage Strange Man also didn't come back, and Lin Yi also didn't issue a warning whistle. Therefore, Sun Jingyi was anxious, but she didn't dare to go, so she sent Skybolt Pig to check the situation. This little thing was small and good at hiding, so it probably wouldn't be easy to be found. Sun Jingyi was going to wait for Skybolt Pig to find out what was going on before coming back to report. That was the truth. The Lightning Pig had a petite body and hid far away. After it went, the Heaven Ranker and the Great Protector didn't notice it. Even Lin Yi didn't notice it. This little guy was smart? However, Lin Yi did not think too much about it. He picked up the Skybolt Pig and started to absorb its true chi to heal himself. Although the Skybolt Pig appeared to be in great pain, it still allowed Lin Yi to absorb the chi from its body. Skybolt Pig was very smart. He knew that Lin Yi needed to heal his injuries, so he gritted his teeth and endured. Lin Yi first used the true chi from the Skybolt Pig to repair his meridians. For Lin Yi, this was already a walk in the park. However, after Lin Yi repaired his meridians, he didn't continue to repair his internal organs and injured bones. Instead, he quickly ran to the strange heaven-ranked man. "Master, how are you?" Although the master in front of Lin Yi was fake, Lin Yi had already regarded him as someone he respected. He was very likely to be Faubert's master. Moreover, he stood up for him in his moment of crisis, so Lin Yi was very concerned about his situation. I'm afraid I can't make it." What move did you use just now? How could it be so powerful?" A trace of confusion flashed through the strange heaven-ranked man's muddy eyes. "How come I don't remember you having such a powerful move?" "I learned it later," Lin Yi said perfunctorily. Seeing that the strange heaven-ranked man was still breathing, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he wasn't dead, it would be easy to deal with him. "Yes. I'm about to die. What's the point of saying this? I still have a few important words to say to you. It's about the enemy. Cough, cough." At this point, the strange heaven-ranked man suddenly coughed and coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. It was obvious that he couldn't hold on any longer. "Master, don't talk for now, I'll heal you." Lin Yi was shocked. He knew that he couldn't delay any longer, so he quickly grabbed the strange heaven-ranked man's hand and locked his pulse. At the same time, he began to use the second stage of the art of dragon mastery to heal the strange heaven-ranked man. At the same time, he instructed Skybolt Pig, "Skybolt Pig, go tell Jingyi that we're fine. Let her come over, I'll help you recover your strength later." Skybolt Pig's true chi was mostly absorbed by Lin Yi, but Skybolt Pig also knew that it was only temporary. Lin Yi would help him recover later, so he barked twice and quickly ran in the direction of the cave. The true chi that Lin Yi absorbed from Skybolt Pig was first used to heal his meridians, but to heal the strange heaven-ranked man's broken internal organs and bones first. Lin Yi's meridians were used to circulate the mental cultivation method to transfer true chi, so it didn't matter if the strange heaven-ranked man's meridians were not repaired for the time being. Lin Yi had to help him save his life first. He directly extracted energy from the space in the jade and transferred it into the strange heaven-ranked man's body. Lin Yi quickly helped him repair his broken internal organs and bones. This magical effect made the strange heaven-ranked man's eyes widen. When did you also cultivate Er's mental cultivation method? You can actually heal me?" "Master, don't talk first, it's a waste of true chi," Lin Yi reminded. Although Lin Yi was here and the strange heaven-ranked man wouldn't die, it was still a waste of true chi for him to talk now. Lin Yi himself was just holding on. After healing the strange heaven-ranked man, Lin Yi still had to heal himself. The strange heaven-ranked man nodded. Although he felt strange, he thought that it was most likely taught by so he no longer had any doubts. He quietly lay there and enjoyed Lin Yi's healing. Skybolt Pig ran back to the cave, and Sun Jingyi didn't know what had happened when she heard that deafening sound. She didn't dare go up, but the feeling of the earth shaking and the mountains shaking still made her heart skip a beat. She didn't know if someone took the explosives to blow up the mountain, so she was even more anxious. When she saw Skybolt Pig, she quickly asked, "Skybolt Pig, how is it? Are Lin Yi and that strange heaven-ranked man all right?" "GG." Although Skybolt Pig saw that Lin Yi was injured, he also knew that after Lin Yi killed the guard, he could heal himself and the strange heaven-ranked man, so he wasn't in danger. In order to make Sun Jingyi feel at ease, Skybolt Pig nodded. They are fine. That's great. Sun Jingyi saw Skybolt Pig nodding and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. The big stone in her heart was finally lifted. GG. Skybolt Pig stretched out his front paw and pointed outside, meaning for Sun Jingyi to follow him. Sun Jingyi didn't hesitate and directly followed Skybolt Pig out of the cave. They walked towards the top of the mountain, but the higher they went, the more shocked they were. That originally incomparably majestic hall had actually disappeared without a trace. Although it was dilapidated and there were ruins everywhere, at least the overall outline was there, making people feel that it was majestic. Chapter 2244. This is... Sun Jingyi was just about to ask when she saw Lin Yi covered in blood and the strange man of heaven stage not far away. Lin Yi was sitting cross-legged, while the strange man of heaven stage was lying on the ground. It seemed that Lin Yi was healing him? Sun Jingyi subconsciously quickened her pace and ran over. Lin Yi. Jingyi, you are here? Lin Yi nodded to her. It's okay. We are all injured, but I can heal. Sun Jingyi was relieved. She wanted to ask where the head protector went, but on second thought, it was better not to disturb Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi was concentrating on healing. So she sat on the side and quietly waited for Lin Yi. After Lin Yi finished healing the organs and main bones of the strange man of heaven stage, he was relieved. There was no problem. At least the strange man of heaven stage wouldn't die. He got his life back. And Lin Yi began to divide a part of his true qi to heal himself, and the other part to the strange man of heaven stage. This way, his healing would not delay, but the speed would be a little slower. But Lin Yi was not in a hurry. The head protector was dead, so there was nothing to worry about. In a majestic hall, an old man wearing a bagua robe was meditating. He suddenly opened his eyes and said faintly, "Didn't I say? Don't disturb me when I am meditating on the way of heaven?" "Master, it's not good. 13th Brother's soul jade card is broken." The person who came was also wearing a bagua robe, and his face was very nervous and sad. "What? 13th Brother's soul jade card is broken?" The eyes of the old man in the bagua robe suddenly shot out a soul-stirring light, making the person not dare to look directly at him. "Yes. I am in charge of the deacon today. Suddenly, I received a report from the disciple who cleaned the jade plaque hall. He said that just now, 13th Brother's soul jade card was broken." The person said carefully. 13th Brother. How could he meet with an accident in that place? With his skills, he can even contend with a mid-stage heaven stage master. Could it be? The old man in the bagua robe suddenly stood up and said to the person, "Immediately send 12th Brother to Ruele to town. Let 6th Brother go with him and investigate what happened. If there are enemies, let 6th Brother deal with them personally. Don't be careless. Then let 12th Brother protect Tag and Dragon." "Yes, Master." Although the newcomer was the first disciple of the old man in the 8 trigrams robe, he was very careful in front of the old man in the 8 trigrams robe, not daring to show the slightest disobedience. Although they were both peak late-stage heaven stage masters, there was a huge gap between the sect and sect. They were all at the peak of the late stage of the heaven rank, but there was a difference in strength. Some had just stepped into the heaven rank, while others were infinitely close to the legendary heavenly Tao. 6 Tian sect master's sect was to meet. He stage late, Ian, and was also one. The old man in the bagua robe had 13 disciples. The head protector from before was 13th Brother. Even the youngest disciple was at the early stage of heaven stage. The old man wanted to send him out to gain experience, but he didn't expect to meet with such a disaster. 6th Brother was 13th Brother, so it was natural for him to avenge his brother. As for 12th Brother, he took over 13th Brother's position and became the head protector of the Tagan family. Tell 6th Brother to be careful. Don't be blinded by hatred. The old man in the bagua robe was heartbroken, but with his strength he didn't show his emotions. "If I'm not wrong, it should be related to the remnants of that sect." "Yes, Master. I will tell 6th Brother." The eldest disciple cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Go." The old man in the bagua robe waved his hand and let his eldest disciple leave. As for him, he sighed slightly. Whether or not he would be able to step into that realm in this lifetime and bring the sect back to that level would depend on this major event in the future. There couldn't be any mistakes in this matter. Even if he had to sacrifice a few disciples, he wouldn't hesitate. Fortunately, Tagan Dragon was fine. Otherwise, who knew how much heartache he would be feeling right now? Finally, Lin Yi finished healing himself and the strange man, and Lin Yi's true qi was also replenished. The next step was to help the Skybolt Pig recover its strength. Lin Yi picked up Skybolt Pig and started channeling his practitioner's arts, helping the pig recover its strength without stopping. The Skybolt Pig was his mobile life-saving treasure, so he had to keep his true qi full at all times. I didn't expect you to be so powerful. After the strange man recovered, he personally ran to the edge of the pit to check on the head protector. Seeing that he didn't look like a human anymore, he couldn't help but be very surprised. This move of yours is too powerful. Also, how can you heal people like you? Previously, Lin Yi didn't have the time to carefully think about what the strange man said. But now that he thought about it carefully, Faubert's original name was Fu Li. Wasn't that Li? And Grandma Sun's name was Sun Luoyue. Wasn't that you? Coupled with the previous association, Lin Yi could already be sure that the strange man was Faubert's master. Thinking of this, Lin Yi couldn't help but smile bitterly. If he and Faubert were the strange man's disciples, wouldn't that mess up the seniority? But now the strange man's brain was a bit messed up. It was fine as long as he was clear in his heart. Yes, master, I learned a lot of things, Lin Yi said. But how did you happen to appear here? I gave you the map before. I don't remember what happened after that. Then I got separated from you. I thought that since you took the map, you would definitely put it together and come back to look for that treasure. So I came back to the Wulonghout mountain range to wait for you. The strange man said, how would I know that the enemy wouldn't give up? They actually sent people to guard here. Thanks to our tacit cooperation, we killed that old thief. Yes. But that treasure. Lin Yi just wanted to ask what the treasure was and what it was used for, but he was interrupted by the strange man. Shoo! Don't mention that treasure anymore. After you go back, cultivate well and strive to break through as soon as possible. I have more important tasks to do. I want to steal the enemy's cultivation method. I already have some clues. The strange man said to himself, but I'm a little tired now. I want to sleep for a while. You and you, come back to the cave with me. Chapter 22:45. Lin Yi, on the other hand, infused energy into the Skybolt Pig while carrying it. Then, he and Sun Jingyi followed the strange man and went to the cave from before. When they arrived at the cave, the strange man fell asleep on the ground. Perhaps the battle just now had really exhausted him. Lin Yi only treated the strange man's injuries, but did not infuse his true qi. After all, the strange man did not circulate the internal cultivation method to actively absorb spiritual qi, so Lin Yi had no way to infuse his true qi. Moreover, Lin Yi did not want to be too shocking. The strange man was only injured and exhausted a lot of his physical strength. This degree of exhaustion was a natural exhaustion that could be recovered with rest. On the contrary, Lin Yi's true qi exhaustion was a real exhaustion that could not be replenished with simple rest. Looking at the strange man who fell asleep, Lin Yi shook his head helplessly. He pointed to the small iron box in Sun Jingyi's hand and motioned for her to open it. Sun Jingyi had always been very curious about what was in the small iron box that could actually attract such a crazy fight from the guards. Of course, Lin Yi had more thoughts. The treasure in the box could actually cause the destruction of Faubert's sect. It must be extraordinary. Can I open it? It won't be like the ginseng fruit in Journey to the West, which disappeared once it fell to the ground, right? Will the thing inside break or lose its effect once I open the box? Sun Jingyi was a little hesitant at the last moment. She felt more or less regretful in her heart. Although there was definitely a treasure in the box, she was still looking forward to clues about her parents. She came here to find clues about her parents. If she had known that it was a treasure, she would not have rushed to come with Lin Yi. In the end, they almost lost their lives here. If it were not for the help of noble people and noble beasts, the two of them would have died here. Of course, you really know how to imagine. How can it be so magical? Lin Yi smiled. Then help me. Sun Jingyi hesitated for a moment, but still handed the small iron box in her hand to Lin Yi. Okay, then I'll help you open it. Lin Yi smiled and took the small iron box. If the thing inside is broken, you have to compensate me, Sun Jingyi said. Oh how? Lin Yi smiled and said, but isn't it a bit unfair? I'm helping you. I don't care, but I haven't thought about how to compensate. Jingyi blushed a little as she looked at Lin Yi nervously, afraid that he'd see through her thoughts. This trip to Oolong Hout had brought the two a lot closer to each other, and Jingyi suddenly felt that Lin Yi was quite a nice guy. No wonder so many girls liked him. Was she going to upgrade to become all of his lovers? But then she suddenly thought that it would be difficult for her to upgrade now, right? There were a lot of women around Lin Yi, and there were even a few waiting in line. Putting aside Meng Yao and Yushu, even Ling Shan had a number lined up a long time ago. Jingyi didn't know what to do. What if she got rejected? Wouldn't she lose a lot of face? Moreover, Sun Jingyi couldn't be sure if she was just grateful and impulsive, or if she really fell in love with Lin Yi. Forget it, she didn't care so much. She'd take it one step at a time. Sun Jingyi sighed. Okay, then if it's really broken, I'll compensate you when you think about it. Lin Yi didn't take it seriously, thinking that she was just joking. He picked up the small iron box and began to study it. On the small iron box, there was a small iron button mechanism. Lin Yi pressed it lightly, and the mechanism was activated. The lid of the box naturally opened. And what came into Lin Yi's eyes was a pure white, crystal-clear stone. The stone looked very special. It looked like a piece of jade or a piece of glass, but it wasn't. In order to find pure yellow jade, blue crystal powder, and other things that could be used to condense jade, Lin Yi had looked up a lot of information, but he didn't see this strange material. It looked like jade but not jade, crystal but not crystal. It looked a bit like amber, but it wasn't amber. What a beautiful stone! Sun Jingyi saw the strange stone in the box in Lin Yi's hand and couldn't help but exclaim. It's indeed very beautiful. Lin Yi nodded, but his attention wasn't focused on how beautiful this stone was. It could be regarded as the sect's treasure. It couldn't be because it was beautiful. After all, for these ancient sects and cultivators, no matter how beautiful gold and silver jewelry was, it was just gold and silver jewelry. It was just a worldly possession and had no great use. Money could be earned anywhere. There was no need to muster a large force to come to an ancient sect to rob, kill, and seize the treasure. There was also no need to let a heaven stage expert guard here for so many years, just to wait for the people of this sect to come back and take this treasure. Therefore, this thing was definitely not as simple as it looked on the surface. However, what was the use of this thing? Lin Yi reached out and carefully took out this strange stone. Then, he weighed it in his hand and carefully looked at it. The stone felt very cold in his hand, but it gave Lin Yi a very familiar feeling. His heart moved slightly, as if there was a little interaction and resonance with this stone, which made Lin Yi a little surprised. What's wrong? Seeing Lin Yi frown, Sun Jingyi quickly asked, what is this thing? I don't know for the time being. Lin Yi shook his head and carefully recalled the feeling just now. That feeling was fleeting, so Lin Yi couldn't capture it. Seeing Lin Yi's contemplative look, Sun Jingyi didn't say anything to disturb him. She sat quietly on the side, hugged her legs, and waited for Lin Yi's answer. Too many things happened in these 2 days. While the relationship between Sun Jingyi and Lin Yi was getting closer, it also made her a little tired. This trip to Wulong Hout mountain range was too thrilling, and it made her a little scared. Lin Yi didn't capture that trace of feeling, so he reached out and held the stone. He slowly transferred his qi into it. At this moment, Lin Yi's face suddenly showed a trace of surprise. This stone actually had a trace of rejection to the qi he transferred in. And when Lin Yi ran the internal cultivation method, there was a continuous flow of qi into Lin Yi's body from the stone. At this moment, Lin Yi finally understood the situation. That was, this stone was actually similar to his own jade pendant space. It could actually provide continuous energy to the cultivator. Chapter 2246. Lin Yi frowned. He tried to enter the space of the jade pendant to enter the stone, but his attempt failed. Lin Yi couldn't enter the space of the stone. This stone seemed to be just a tool to assist in cultivation and provide energy. It didn't have the various functions of the space of the jade pendant. However, although this treasure was very magical, it was just a chicken rib for Lin Yi. With the space of the jade pendant, this thing was simply child's play. However, this matter also indirectly proved one thing. That was, the space of the jade pendant on his body must not be known by anyone. Unless it was someone who was very close to him, otherwise if it was spread out, then there would be endless trouble. An ordinary man's wealth would arouse his own ruin. A magical stone could cause such a dispute, not to mention the jade pendant that Lin Yi had that was 100 times stronger than this stone. This thing is used for cultivation. Lin Yi put the stone in the iron box, then handed it to Sun Jingyi and said, "Used for cultivation?" Sun Jingyi was slightly surprised. "Try it. Use your hand to hold the stone, and use your practitioner's arts. There'll be an endless stream of pure energy flowing into your body from the stone, and it'll speed up your training." Lin Yi explained the stone's functions. "Ah, so magical?" Sun Jingyi wasn't stupid. She immediately understood the value of this stone. The function of this thing was simply against the natural order. No wonder the guards wanted to snatch it, and the ancient sect on this mountain range was destroyed because of it. However, Sun Jingyi couldn't understand. What did her parents have to do with this sect? Moreover, how did her parents get this treasure map? It can be considered magical. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people coming to snatch it. Lin Yi said, "The energy in this stone is much purer than the outside world's spiritual energy. Using it to cultivate will naturally yield twice the results with half the effort." "Then, you don't have the slightest intention of killing them and stealing their treasures?" Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi strangely. She was very clear about the value of this thing. If it was really as Lin Yi said, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it would cause a bloodbath. But didn't Lin Yi want it for himself? So many people had their eyes on this stone, but Lin Yi had researched the use of the stone and returned it to him so easily? Sun Jingyi couldn't understand Lin Yi. This man was really strange. If he hadn't told her what the stone was for and asked for it, she might have given it to him. However, he didn't do that. He returned the stone to her and told her what it was for. "Kill you?" Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi and asked. "And?" Sun Jingyi nodded. "Do you think I'll kill you?" Lin Yi asked. "I won't." Sun Jingyi was a little frustrated. "It's really hard to guess your thoughts. This kind of good thing, so many people want to snatch it, but you don't care and returned it to me. If I wanted to snatch it, I would have tricked you into giving me the map. I came here to hunt for treasures myself. Why would I bring you along?" Lin Yi said with a smile, "Not everyone wants to snatch other people's things." "Okay." Sun Jingyi shrugged and said, "I thought there would be clues about my parents. I didn't expect to find a treasure after looking for it. If I knew this, I wouldn't have come. I even took such a big risk and almost caused you to die." "Why? You don't seem to care about this thing?" Lin Yi asked with a smile. "It's not that I don't care, but the mental cultivation method I practice is similar to the function of this thing. No matter how powerful I am, I can only help others in the end, so this thing is not very useful to me." Sun Jingyi handed the small box to Lin Yi and said, "Simply, give it to you." "Give it to me?" Lin Yi was slightly stunned. "Yeah, you're so generous. Can't I be generous for once?" Jingyi herself didn't know why she'd be so generous as to give this to him. Perhaps he'd traded his life for it, and she herself didn't have much use for it after all? "Oh, thank you." Lin Yi was stunned and a little touched, but he still pushed the small box back to Sun Jingyi. "I have my own cultivation method. This thing is useless to me. It's better for you to keep it. This should be something your parents left for you. How can I take it? Moreover, your auxiliary mental cultivation method is not bad. Maybe it will be useful to me in the future." Sun Jingyi didn't think much of the first half of Lin Yi's sentence. After all, even if this was left for her by her parents, it was really useless to her. Even if she practiced the Sun family's mental cultivation method to the extreme, it would still be a wedding dress for others in the end. However, the second half of Lin Yi's sentence made Sun Jingyi's heart palpitate. Is he hinting at something? He clearly knows the special nature of my mental cultivation method. Is he making an appointment with me in advance? Do I have to give him all the vital energy I cultivate in the future? Thinking of this, Sun Jingyi blushed a little, but she hesitated for a moment and still accepted the small box. Since Lin Yi didn't want this thing, she couldn't give it to others. She wouldn't even say half a word more. If this thing was known by others, then not only would it bring her a lot of trouble, but it would also implicate Lin Yi at the same time. Not to mention anything else, if the forces behind the Great Guardian found Lin Yi, it would be a huge trouble. Well, then I can only accept it. For you, I will work hard to cultivate. Sun Jingyi said. Hee hee. Lin Yi smiled. Are you tired? You should take a rest too. You have been nervous these 2 days. You didn't sleep well, right? Yesterday in the Fire Lion's den, I slept okay. Sun Jingyi said, "But today I am really a little tired." "Then sleep." Lin Yi said, "I will cultivate." This time, he was injured and lost all his strength, but it didn't help Lin Yi's strength level to go any further. Without destruction, there can be no construction. After destruction, there can be construction. This was Lin Yi's tried and tested method of breaking through the limit. To put it bluntly, it was a bit like looking for abuse, but on the path of martial arts, everyone had their own way of cultivation and breakthrough. All roads lead to Rome. And everyone was different. It was really hard to say whether these opponents were torturing Lin Yi or helping Lin Yi. It was just that Lin Yi had just advanced to the middle phase of Earth class, and his strength level had stabilized through Wang Xinyan's fragrance not long before he came to the Wulonghout Mountains. If he wanted to level up this time, it was basically an extravagant hope, so Lin Yi wasn't very regretful. In the middle of the night, Lin Yi was cultivating when he suddenly heard a strange cry. Chapter 2247. On one hand, he was afraid that the strange man would go crazy again, and on the other hand, he was afraid that the great guardian's accomplices would come looking for him. He didn't expect that the thing that Lin Yi was worried about would go crazy in the end. After the strange man woke up, he suddenly crawled up from the ground and looked at everything in the cave in a daze. Suddenly, his gaze fell on Lin Yi and revealed an ominous glint. "Who are you? Why are you here?" Lin Yi was slightly startled. The strange man had always thought that he was his disciple, so why did he suddenly not recognize him? However, Lin Yi still said, "Master, it's me, I'm your disciple." "You're my disciple?" The strange man was also startled, and immediately said, "You're not Leah. Who are you?" "I." Lin Yi's heart tightened. Did the strange man return to normal, or did he go crazy again? He actually didn't recognize him? "Speak. Who are you? Who the hell are you?" The strange man roared, and his figure flashed as he appeared in front of Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't have the chance to dodge. He grabbed Lin Yi's collar, and his eyes were filled with vigilance and anger. "Tell me, did you kill my disciple? Where is Lear? Tell me." "I'm Lear." Lin Yi didn't think that the heaven-class monster would turn on him like that. He smiled bitterly in his heart, but he had no choice but to insist that he was Lear. Otherwise, the monster would kill him with one slap. "You are Lear?" The strange man frowned, and the strength in his hand increased. He directly picked up Lin Yi and was about to throw Lin Yi against the wall. "Quickly tell me, who are you, or else this old man will throw you to death." "Old mister, don't be agitated." Sun Jingyi was also awakened by this shout. Seeing that the strange man was going to harm Lin Yi, she was startled. She didn't want to say anything and wanted Lin Yi to settle it himself, but seeing that it couldn't be settled, she could only brace herself and walk over to explain for Lin Yi. He is your disciple?" The man glared at the dissuasion and was about to retort when he turned to look at Sun Jingyi. He paused, a trace of confusion flashing through his eyes before turning back to Sun Jingyi. You where? Why are you here?" The strange man looked at Sun Jingyi strangely, then turned to look at Lin Yi. "You said he is Lear?" Although Sun Jingyi didn't know why the strange man suddenly became less irritable, it was still a good thing. She quickly nodded and said, "Yes, he is your disciple, Lear." "Oh, that's right." The strange man let go of Lin Yi and nodded. "Since Yuer said you are Lear, then you must be Lear." Phew. Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief and thought that he was lucky. Although Sun Jingyi was confused, Lin Yi's guess was close to the mark. The strange man probably saw that he didn't look like Li Fu and suddenly became clear-headed. But when he saw Sun Jingyi, he mistakenly thought that she was Sun Luiyue's grandma, so he felt that what she said was true and thought that he was Lear. Fortunately, Sun Jingyi was here. Otherwise, it would be hard for Lin Yi to explain. "No, you're not Lear, you're not." The strange man looked at Lin Yi and suddenly shouted. But when he looked at Sun Jingyi, his gaze became doubtful again. "You are Yuer. That's right. But you're not Lear. You're Yuer. You're Lear. You're not. You are. You're not." The strange man's face suddenly turned pale and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He screamed and covered his head with both hands, as if he was in great pain. "Master, you." Lin Yi wanted to use the silver needles to help him relieve the pain, but the strange man pushed Lin Yi to the side and ran out of the cave while screaming. Soon he disappeared into the night. Sigh. Lin Yi sighed helplessly. It seemed that the strange man's illness was acting up again. Just like last time, he ran away without warning and didn't even say goodbye. Faubert's master was really pitiful. One moment he was normal. The next moment he was crazy. When he was normal, he wasn't normal either. When he was crazy, he was even more confused. Lin Yi. That strange man. Why did he suddenly? Sun Jingyi was sleeping before, so she didn't know what happened. I don't know, but it might be his madness acting up again. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and said, last time, it was in the cave. When I was sleeping in the middle of the night, he jumped up and ran away. It's the same this time. Then he just ran away like that? Sun Jingyi looked at the iron box in her hand and didn't know what to say. He just ran away like that. Lin Yi nodded. It seems that when he sleeps at night, he isn't very awake. But it's better during the day. During the day, he still treats me as his disciple. Then what should we do now? Sun Jingyi said. Where can he go? It's hard to say. It's late at night. If he wants to run, where can we find him? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. At most we can follow the direction he ran in. If we really can't find him, then there's nothing we can do. Last time, Lin Yi waited in the cave for a long time, but the heaven-rank strange man didn't come back. He reckoned that this time, the strange man wouldn't be able to come back. Instead of waiting in the cave, it was better to take the initiative to look for him. The key problem was that Lin Yi still had several questions that he hadn't asked, including Faubert's enemies, the true use and origin of the strange stone, and so on. At present, he could only try to look for him. If he really couldn't find him, then Lin Yi had no other way. And since the strange man wasn't by his side, Lin Yi didn't want to stay in the cave anymore. After all, without the strange man as a bodyguard, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to deal with it if the Great Protector's accomplices came looking for him. Therefore, instead of being in danger here, it was better to take the initiative to look for the strange man and avoid the Great Protector's accomplices. All right, let's go together. Sun Jingyi nodded. She had rested enough, and most importantly, she also wanted to ask the strange man about the origin of the treasure in her hands. What Sun Jingyi wanted to know the most was whether this thing had anything to do with her parents, and why did she have half a treasure map in her hands? Chapter 2248. After doing all this, Lin Yi asked the Skybolt pig, can you find the heaven-rank strange man's trail? Gigi. The Skybolt pig shook his head, indicating that it was a bit difficult. After all, human cultivators were different from spirit beasts. Moreover, his current level was too low, so it was a bit troublesome to find human cultivators. Even if it was a human cultivator that he had seen before, it would be very difficult for him to find them. Lin Yi saw the pig's answer, and didn't press the issue. Together with Jingyi, they chased after the heaven-class monster in the direction he ran off to. With the strange man's speed, Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi naturally wouldn't be able to catch up. Now, Lin Yi's only hope was that the strange man would stop after a while. It would be best if he returned to normal. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to catch up to him even if they chased him all the way. Moreover, if the strange man changed his direction halfway, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to find him. The strange man fled in a slanted direction towards the middle of the mountain range, but it was completely opposite to the direction Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi had come from. Lin Yi didn't know if there was a path there or if he could go down the mountain, but since the strange man ran in that direction, he could only follow. Lin Yi's guess wasn't wrong. At the same time, at the foot of the Wulonghout mountain range, two uninvited guests wearing Bagua robes suddenly appeared in the Tagan family's courtyard. Of course, they came and went without a trace. They silently stepped into the Tagan family's courtyard and didn't attract the attention of the other families and forces in the small town. Even if they were standing in the Tagan family's courtyard, they didn't alarm anyone. Until the Tagan family's patrolling servant suddenly discovered that there were two more people in the courtyard. He was immediately shocked. Just as he was about to shout that there were assassins invading, the servant was also an astute person. Seeing that these two people were wearing the same clothes as the family's great protector, he didn't rashly shout. He reckoned that these two people might have some relationship with the great protector, so he carefully asked, "Excuse me, you two are? Take me to Takango." Among the two, one of them was obviously young, about the same age as the head protector. This man was old 12. As for the other old man with a grave and stern expression, he was the elder brother of the 13th guardian, the 6th guardian. At this moment, His heart was very heavy. He did not expect that his younger brother who had come out to train would die in a foreign land. Originally, training outside and assuming the position of Tagan family's great protector was a lucrative job. Not only did he not need to be on duty in the sect, he was also worshipped by Tagan family here. His words carried enormous weight and he did not dare to disobey. This kind of lucrative job used to be the most envious job of these brothers, but first because old 13 was the youngest, and second, he was the younger brother of old 6, everyone let him do it. But they didn't expect such bad news. The soul jade tablet had shattered. Without a doubt, old 6 didn't even need to confirm it to know that his younger brother, old 13th, had died. There was no chance of luck or deception with Master's soul jade tablet. All of them had their own soul jade tablet, which was made by Master using a special method. Even Tagan Long had one. Once the soul jade tablet shattered, it meant that the person had died, and there was no possibility of survival. So, no matter how sad they were, it was useless. Old 6th calmly came to the Tagan family, ready to find Tagan Long and Tagan Gao to confirm what had happened. Who was so powerful to be able to kill old 13? One had to know that old 13's strength was very high, and he could even fight against a heaven-rank middle-stage expert. Yet he actually died here. There must be something fishy about this matter. Excuse me, you two are. The servant had to first confirm the identity of the visitors. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to rashly bring these two to see the family head. We are your senior brothers of the head protector. Old 12 said. Ah, please. Hearing that they were the senior brothers of the head protector, the servant didn't dare to say anything else and quickly made an inviting gesture. In the Tagan family, although these servants didn't know some of the core secrets of the family, they knew that the head protector's status in the family wasn't any lower than the family head, Tagan Gao. Old 6 and old 12 nodded, and expressionlessly followed the servant into the inner courtyard. In fact, with their skills, entering and exiting the inner courtyard was as easy as turning over their hands. However, they were too lazy to search every room, so it was more convenient to find a member of the Tagan clan to lead them. They followed the servant to the front of a big house in the inner courtyard. Just as the servant was about to report, old 12 waved his hand and said, "No need, we can go in ourselves." With that said, old 12 pushed open the door of the house and walked in with old 6. The servant followed behind worriedly. Just as he was about to apologize to Tagan Gao, he heard Tagan Gao say, "Head protector, are you back?" "You are Tagan Gao, right?" Old 12 didn't answer Tagan Gao's question, but looked at the old man in the room and asked. Tagan Gao was shocked. He didn't expect that the person who came in wasn't the head protector, but a stranger. It should be known that in the Tagan family, only the head protector could enter and exit his house at will. Therefore, Tagan Gao didn't think much before, but now he was shocked. He suddenly stood up and turned to look at the door. Who is it? However, when Tagan Gao saw the attire of the two strangers, he suddenly let out a sigh of relief and asked tentatively, "You are the same as the head protector from that place?" 12th brother nodded expressionlessly. Tagan Gao's heart tightened. He waved his hand at the servant and said, "You can leave, there's nothing for you to do here." Yes. The servant saw that Tagan Gao seemed to know the people, so he didn't stay any longer. He bowed and turned to leave. After he closed the door, Tagan Gao welcomed them with a smile. "The two sirs are from that place. This old man didn't go out to greet you. My apologies. However, the head protector has gone out and hasn't returned yet. Do you want this old man to send him a signal?" There was no communication signal in the Wulanhate mountain range, and there was some inexplicable interference, so communication equipment couldn't be used. Therefore, each family had a unique communication code for people who went up the mountain, such as signal flares. Chapter 2249. What? Tagango was shocked by old 12's words. Is he dead? Didn't that mean he was dead? The head protector was so powerful that he could even fight against a mid-phase disaster practitioner. How could he be dead? How could there be a rival to the head protector in Realita town? Master has already found out about his death through a special method, old 12 said. Tell us, what did the head protector do? What did he say and do before he left? You have to tell us word for word. 12th brother had to find out how 13th brother had died. What was the cause of his death? Did anything strange happen here before he died? Yes. Tagango hurriedly invited the two of them to sit down in the living room. After making tea for them personally, He did not dare to hide anything. He started from the time when Tagan Dragon had discovered a small fire attribute fire lion, and was about to take it as a contractual spiritual beast. This is what happened. The Adventurers Guild controlled by my family publicly recruited adventurers to capture small fire lions. Although this didn't sound like it had anything to do with the head protector's death, Jianghu had to have his reasons for starting from here. So, Old 6 and Old 12 weren't in a rush. They sat there and listened carefully to Jianghu's story. When he heard that it was extremely dangerous up the mountain, and that the fire lion almost took Jianghu's life, Old 12 couldn't help but frown. Jianghu, don't you know how important Jianghu's safety is? Even Master values him so much. How could he let him do something so dangerous? If something goes wrong, can your Tagan family bear the responsibility? I'm sorry. Cold sweat appeared on Jianghu's forehead. He didn't know much about that place, but if that place could turn House Tagan from a third-rate house to a top house in Realita, then it could also turn House Tagan into a worthless house. He quickly explained, I didn't think it would be this dangerous, and the timing was all planned out. Who knew that Zhang Naipeo would help that little fire lion in the dark, delaying the time? That's why things ended up like this. All right, Old 12, since Jianghu is fine, let's not pursue this matter anymore. Just be careful in the future. Sixth brother waved his hand and interrupted Jianghu. The most important thing now is to find out the cause of 13th brother's death. Sixth senior brother is right. 12 nodded and turned to Jianghu. You're saying that Zhang Naipeo hid his strength, and that his wife looks very similar to the woman we're looking for? Yes. Tagan nodded and said, it is precisely because of this that the Great Protector wanted to go up the mountain alone after hearing about this matter. Could it be that those people are back? Old 12 looked at Old 6 with a questioning look. Sixth brother nodded and said, how about this? Call Taganlong over and have him tell us the details of what happened in detail. Yes, sirs. Please wait for a moment. I will personally call Taganlong over. Jianghu quickly said. After saying that, Tagan quickly left the house. When only Old 6 and Old 12 were left in the room, Old 12 said, Six senior brother, what do you think about this? Your guess should be correct. It should be that Sek's successor has returned. However, I don't know how he is related to the two people we are looking for. Is he their son, or did they come in disguise? Sixth brother hesitated for a moment before speculating. That's right. There are only these two possibilities. Old 12 said, but, an Earth class mid-phase, a practitioner who hasn't even stepped into Golden class, without the help of the Great Fire Lion, even the fifth protector could be easily taken care of. How could they fight against Old 13? This is what I'm curious about as well. That's why I want Taganlong to come and tell us some of the details so that we can make the correct judgment. Old 6 said. Could it be that the Great Fire Lion helped? Old 12 frowned and asked. No way. Old 6 shook his head. That Great Fire Lion has some history with this sect, but he wouldn't interfere with human practitioners' matters. Spirit beasts, other than contracted spirit beasts, usually participate in human battles. Other spirit beasts aren't easily controlled by humans. Plus, this Great Fire Lion didn't do anything when we attacked this sect, so why would he do something now? During the siege of that sect, the 12th and 13th brothers hadn't reached the heaven rank yet, so they naturally didn't participate. Even the 6th brother was just a bystander, but he knew more secrets than the 12th brother. That's weird. Could it be that Zhang Naipeo helped the little fire lion secretly, and that's why the Great Fire Lion acted? Old 12 was confused as well. It's hard to say. Let's wait for Taganlong and see what he has to say. Old 6 said. It didn't take long before Tagan returned. Taganlong followed behind him and quickly walked in. When he saw the two people in the room, he quickly cupped his fists and saluted. Taganlong greets the two uncle masters. Dispense with the formalities. Taganlong. You should know why we called you here, right? Old 12 asked. Tell us in detail what happened before the Great Protector left. Yes. Taganlong hurriedly nodded and did not dare to hide anything. He recounted everything, including some details that Taganlong did not notice. In the end, he carefully asked, Uncle Master, my master, he really... Yes, the Great Protector is dead. Old 12 sighed. It must be those two. Uncle Master, you must avenge my master. Taganlong said in grief when he heard the news. Whether it was them or not, it's hard to say for now, but this revenge must be taken. Now, tell me the moves that Zhang Naipeo used in detail. Old Six said suddenly. Zhang Naipeo's moves? Tag Long paused. He didn't pay much attention to Lin Yi's moves before, and now that he thought about it carefully he said, I remember that he had a move, and I think he shouted something like Frenzy Fist. Frenzy Fist. Old Six's eyes flashed fiercely. It really was the Frenzy Fist. Others might not know, but he knew that the Frenzy Fist was the secret technique of this sect, and since that Zhang Naipeo was using the Frenzy Fist, he had to be from this sect.